hooking on to what's called the Harmony module.
Right.
And using that American module to...
There are life rafts as well, by which I mean Soyuz aircraft, Soyuz spacecraft, which are permanently docked. There's always at least one Soyuz capsule. The Russian Soyuz is, of course, done yeoman service on the International Space Station. At least one of them is always docked to ensure that if the crew needs to get out, they can get onto that. It serves as a life raft. But this would, SpaceX has been providing so many missions up to the International Space Station in order to get crew supplies in, crew members in. Pallav, go ahead.
See, in the next 5 minutes, we'll approach what is called the go, no-go point, meaning if we cross that 5 minutes, it's an automated process. After that, they do not retract. They get into that safe zone, and after that 5 minutes, it has to be a docking. So if any change has to be done, it will be in less than 5 minutes. That is the normal protocol.
What an incredible view, Pallav.
Yes, this is the
This is the front. This is from the International Space Station. The hatch of the Crew Dragon has opened a little while back. You're zooming in right now to get a better view. Don't worry, it's not moving that fast. That was just a camera zoom in. Pallav, a bit worried at that stage. And then it's all going to happen really slowly right now. And in about, 3 minutes, 49 seconds, or maybe a little bit more than that. It's going to gently get into place. Now, there are thrusters which are constantly firing because they have to match the exact trajectory of the International Space Station. And if you look at a display on the bottom right-hand side, you can see exactly what thrusters, and you can't see them visibly. Sometimes you can.
The light shines on the thruster which is firing at that particular moment. This is a live feed, and there are 12 Draco thrusters there.
Oh, what a remarkable sight. Just look at that. And you can see the thrusters firing as if on cue. Pallav evidently has a direct neural link with the International Space Station and the Crew Dragon. But you could see, and you will continue to see, the thrusters fire, the forward thrusters, just as absolutely millimeter perfect adjustments are made. This is a view of the Crew Dragon as it approaches the International Space Station. Pallav.
And Vishnu, for our viewers, they need to understand both are traveling at about 28,000 kilometers per hour. The relative velocity between the two would be nearly zero when the docking happens.
The speed is 26,481 kilometers per hour right now.
You got a sharper eyesight. I can't read that much, but that's what the speed.
And altitude of 423 kilometers.
420. That's roughly the altitude on which the International Space Station travels. Right now, I'm told the space station is somewhere over North America, and the docking is expected in the next 7-8 minutes, with another 2 minutes to go for that exact go, no-go point, because after that, it has to be a docking. If they have to abort, they have to do it a little before that. Because beyond that, they go into what is called the keep-out sphere.
Right.
So, lovely views. The front hatch is open. The hatch from which the crew entered the Grace Dragon was the side hatch. That side hatch will remain closed throughout this 14-day mission. It will open only when they have the perfect splashdown, because that side hatch opens only for entry and exit of the crew. On the space station, it's the front hatch which is used for entry and exit of the crew. So we can see the lights and the laser lights firing away to make sure that the Crew Dragon is perfectly aligned with the Harmony module and the port there. The docking mechanism itself is a very complicated process, jointly developed between NASA and Roscosmos, and all of this has been perfected over years and years, over hundreds of dockings. I should also remind our viewers that India also recently did a space docking experiment. We docked and undocked 2 of our uncrewed satellites. They were in circular orbit, all in preparation for human docking, which may happen at some point for India. So India also becoming the fourth country to do docking in space. Right now it has only been done by America, Russia and China. India became the fourth to dock in space. And right now we are seeing the Crew Dragon and the crew on board, the Indian, American, Hungarian and the Polish crew got to name the capsule, which is very rare.
What a lovely name though, Harmony.
No, Harmony is the module. The name of the capsule is Grace.
Right. Sorry.
And the little soft toy they are carrying on them as the zero gravity indicator is called Joy. So Joy and Grace, lovely names for the capsule. And astronaut Peggy Whitson did say when she was traveling in this that it has the scent of a new capsule because it's the first time it has been flown. That's why they got to name it. So the name will stay permanently as Grace.
All right, let's just listen in for a moment, Pallav, to what the commentary is from Axiom. No audio at the moment is what I'm told, but my God, just look at how amazing this is. And this is high definition footage coming in from 423 kilometers above the Earth of one spacecraft focusing on another spacecraft traveling at a speed of 26,481 kilometers per hour.
And it's right now.
Hang on, we've got the audio back up. Let's listen.
To the International Space Station. Dragon Grace now 25 meters away.
All right, less than 25 meters at this stage before the Crew Dragon spacecraft.
Dragon has now reached waypoint 2, 20 meters away from the International Space Station, and will continue its approach to the International Space Station.
Pallav, have we reached a go-no-go point?
I think we've crossed the go-no-go point.
And there you can see a great view of that zenith port, that space-facing port of the International Space Station's Harmony module.
What an incredible view of the
Dragon spacecraft right now sitting at waypoint 2, just 20 meters away.
Houston station for step 4 in block Bravo. Dragon attitude is as expected.
Houston copies. Station Houston on the big loop. Dragon is on final approach and is go for docking. Monitor per steps 5 and 6 and 1.102.
Station copies. Monitoring per steps 5 and 6.
And there you heard it. The final steps relayed up to the crew for final approach and docking have been given as we continue to see Dragon Grace spacecraft close the gap between them and the International Space Station. Now, just before the spacecraft reaches the international docking adapter for that soft capture, you'll hear the call out CHOP, or crew hands off point, which Dragon will continue its journey and make that initial connection, that soft capture, in those final few moments.
SpaceX, Dragon, 10 meters.
10 meters.
Inside 10 meters, a little less now than 30 feet away, is all that separates Dragon Grace from the International Space Station.
Five meters.
5 meters.
You can say both views.
Five meters before the Crew Dragon with Shubhanshu Shukla docks with the International Space Station. Let's cut back and listen in on what's happening.
2 meters, chop. 2 station, 2 meters, chop.
We have chop.
1 meter.
1 meter. Dragon contact and soft capture complete.
All right, breaking news now. The soft dock has been successful. The Dragon capsule with Shubhanshu Shukla has
Dragon
docked
Grace
with the
and the
International
Axiom
Space
Mission
Station.
4 crew have arrived to the International Space Station at 5:31 a.m. Central Time over the North Atlantic as the two orbiting around the Earth, connecting with the soft capture ring, and now we'll begin the ring retraction to bring the two vehicles closer together, and then the 12 hooks, the two sets of 6, will drive to form a hard nut. And there you heard there, the soft capture ring is retracting, and then we'll do so until sensors are indicating it's time for those hooks to drive in place and give us a hard capture and firmly secure Dragon to station. And again, Axiom Mission 4 and its commander Peggy Whitson, pilot Shubhanshu Shukla of ISRO, and mission specialist Slawosz Uznanski-Wisniewski and Tibor Kapu of ESA and Lunar have arrived to the International Space Station with contact at 5:31 a.m. Central, 6:31 a.m. Eastern, as the two were orbiting over the North Atlantic. The soft capture ring, that initial contact between Dragon Grace and the International Space Station, continuing to retract, and we'll await for the calls that the sensors read that it will be time for those 12 hooks on the Dragon to then begin driving and connecting itself to form a hard mate to the International Space Station.
Ring retraction complete. Docking sequence is holding for MCS reconfiguration.
This is Mission Control Houston, as you are seeing a live view of the recently connected Dragon Grace spacecraft with the Axiom Mission 4 astronauts and Peggy Whitson, Shubhanshu Shukla, Slawosz Uznanski-Wisniewski, and Tibor Kapu arrive to the International Space Station, soft capture and contact at 5:31 a.m. Central Time, 6:31 a.m. Eastern, as the two were orbiting above the North Atlantic. And right now, the two mated with that soft capture, the soft capture ring retracting to pull the spacecraft closer to the International Space Station. And once given the go, the ring or the hooks around the Dragon nose cone will drive and connect to form a hard mate. Teams on the ground in both Houston.
Station Houston on the big loop. MCS configured, proceeding with hook driving.
Station copies.
And the great call there, that's the next step in this docking procedure, is the driving of the hooks, the 12 hooks surrounding the nose cone or the nose of the Dragon spacecraft. And we'll monitor those. They'll drive in 2 sets of 6. The first set of 6 right now, they're traveling, and we'll continue to follow along as the docking process continues on. And then after that first set of 6, the second set will drive and connect Dragon to form a hard mate to the International Space Station. And once the docking is complete, NASA astronauts Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers, who have been monitoring from the International Space Station from the cupola of the Dragon's arrival, it'll be Ayers that'll begin the hatch opening or hatch operations. And that'll start by opening up the main hatch on the Node 2 Zenith section of the Harmony module. That's what you see Dragon connected to. And what's separating that module and the Dragon spacecraft is that and continuing to monitor that first set of 6 hooks forming that hard mate. And once the full set of 12, Ayers will continue the docking procedures with the leak checks and then begin making its way into the pressurized mating adapter. That's what you see between the Harmony module and the Dragon spacecraft, and access into there to then what we begin pressurizing the vestibule, that small compartment between the 2 hatches. And that vestibule has been exposed to the vacuum of space prior to Dragon Grace's arrival. So the next step is to carefully reintroduce that air and pressure inside so it matches both that of the station and the Dragon spacecraft. And we just received confirmation that the first set of 6 hooks have driven and closed, and it will now begin the second set of 6 to continue that hard mate between the Dragon spacecraft and the International Space Station.
All right, just for the benefit of our viewers, what you are seeing is fairly historic footage. I'm as amazed at the footage and the quality of that feed as anything else. And that's the Dragon capsule, which is now engaged its hooks and is in position with the International Space
If you are just
Station.
joining us, this is Mission Control Houston, where Axiom Mission 4 aboard the Dragon Grace spacecraft have connected to the International Space Station at 5:31 a.m. Central Time, currently in the process from soft capture to the hard mate to the orbiting laboratory. First set of 6 hooks have closed, and now monitoring that second set of 6, 12 in total, to form that hard mate.
That hard mate forming is going to take a little bit of time, and it's only once that is done and the pressure is equalized between the Crew Dragon, the vestibule, which is a small area between the Crew Dragon spacecraft and the International Space Station. Once that is equalized with air pressure between Dragon and the International Space Station, and the hard lock
Dragon,
is
SpaceX
confirmed,
on the big loop,
that
hard
we
capture
can start
complete.
talking about a transfer of the astronauts, including Shubhanshu Shukla, onto the International Space Station, where they'll be welcomed. Pallav, what happens from here onwards?
Well, what we see is the incredible view of Group Captain Astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla
And we just heard
reaching the
confirmation there.
International
All
Space
12
Station.
hooks have closed, and that
They
is a
have
hard
touched
mate
base.
to
They
the
started
Dragon Grace
from the
spacecraft and
Kennedy
the
Space
International
Center
Space
almost
Station,
28
completing
hours
from
ago,
soft capture to that
and now
hard mate.
they are at the International
And
Space
these-
Station awaiting the opening of the hatch, and that is going to take a couple of hours.
So the soft capture
And then we
ring
will
retraction
see
in
the
progress,
crew of
and then
4
it'll be
going
on
into
to
the International Space
establishing
Station.
umbilical connections
Docking is
between
a
the
very
spacecraft
complex
and the International
process.
Space Station.
It
That'll
starts,
allow for the
it started
transfer
almost
of
2 hours
communications
ago
and power
and
through
will
those
go on for
umbilicals.
another
So
2
we're
hours.
Dragon. You
And
see
then we
that
will
upper
see
portion
the
that's mostly
astronauts
black
going
against the
inside.
vacuum of space, but that's the solar
This is the
arrays
first
for
time
Dragon power,
an
once those umbilicals
Indian
are
astronaut
connected.
has reached the
That power will then
International
be
Space
provided by
Station.
the International
Even
Space
though the
Station.
International Space Station is really at the fag end of its life, but an Indian astronaut reaching the International Space Station is a historic moment for India. The Axiom-4 mission, which I sometimes call the mission Akash Ganga, has created history for India and the world because there is an American, a Hungarian, and a Polish astronaut. Astronaut Peggy Whitson is the commander, and there are 3, as she herself says, rookie astronauts who have never flown into space. Now, all 3 have been in space for 28 hours. So we don't think we should call them rookie anymore. They are there at the International Space Station. I'm sure their hearts are beating fast. They are in their space suits now because this is an active phase. It's in the passive phase when they go into their comfortable clothes. Because when we saw them in the afternoon speaking to the world from space, they were in their more comfortable clothes. So they are in their space suits. So they will change back into more comfortable clothes and then enter into the International Space Station. All of the International Space Station really works at what is called the Greenwich Mean Time or the London time. So beyond this, when they enter the International Space Station, they will be greeted by the commander of the International Space Station, who is currently the Japanese astronaut on board, and then they would be shown around for safety, and then there would be time for probably for the end of the day for today. And tomorrow would be a new day for
Dragon,
Group
SpaceX
Captain
on the big
Shukla,
loop,
second
docking
day in
sequence
space,
complete.
and
Ground will
work
be
will
enabling
begin.
hardline power and comm connections shortly. You
So
are go to
Pallav,
dock
in
seat
terms
per
of the
procedure
process from the
4.012
soft capture,
and
which is
begin
where we are
docking
essentially
cabin.
to that hard mate that they're referring to, what exactly are they talking about?
Oh, the international docking port is a very complex mechanism which has been developed between Russia and America, and the whole process has been made so that the seals are literally airtight.
Right.
And all of this starts with what they call a soft capture, and then slowly the retraction happens, and the Crew Dragon is slowly brought closer to the International Space Station, and then the hard capture happens, after which it's the seals, they become hermetically sealed, meaning there is no air gap or air leakage, and then the all the tests begin.
And that's called the hard mate. That's
The final thing is the hard capture. And then the seal tests, whether the seal is airtight or not, will begin. I'm told by different astronauts that once the hard capture happens, it's only a small hatch which is there between the crew module and the spacecraft, and both start literally hammering on each end of the door of the hatch, and there are two of them because on each side, because they are very anxiously waiting to meet each other. There are 7 crew on board the International Space Station, and 4 more are going to join them. So we will have for India, if we call them, that will be a Space 11 for India at the International Space Station. And who knows, India has a way, they could always do something when there are 11 people.
right. Well, joining us also Dr. Krisvin Karthik. He's a scientist at the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Bengaluru. Manish Purohit is a former scientist at ISRO. Dr. Ajay Lele with us as well. Air Vice Marshal Deepak Gaur. So we've got a lot of excellent voices on this program, all watching on with fair amazement at what's taking place. Dr. Karthik, what does this moment mean for you, and as somebody who's been watching, the evolution of Indian science?
Yeah, thank you for calling. Yeah, it is incredible and a great for the young generation also to ignite them for
as Axiom Mission.
Getting inspiration for the
Peggy Whitson, who uses
space
talking on the big loop, the
related
communications between all
the events. Generally, what happens, it is like one generation watching is ridiculous. For example, that moon exploration that happened long before, and after that there was nothing. And our Rakesh Sharma 84, it happened, and after 41 years. So for the current generation, it will be upcoming era. It will be a continuous space exploration. They are gifted, and all these activities are really good for inspiration for them to get into excited about the science activities and seeing the world out of the earth. Other than the regular entertainment, etc., media and the cricket and the media, the movie release and etc.
Right. Well, give me a second. Let me go across to Ajay Lele.
So many people.
Dr. Lele, I think what strikes me most is we've been watching space now for so many decades, but it's the quality of this imagery, a live feed of 2 spacecraft traveling at 27,000 kilometers per hour at approximately 428 kilometers away from the Earth. And, the fact that we could see it as brilliantly as we did, it just makes space so much more real for us. I think that's my immediate thought. How about yours?
Pressurizing the vestibule, which is that small space between the hatches on Dragon and the space station.
Ajay, are you there?
Talked about this has been exposed to vacuum prior to docking, and we'll need to.
All right, let me put that across to Air Marshal Gaur. Air Marshal Gaur, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Atmospheric pressure.
Your thoughts on just this incredible footage that we are seeing. I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, Vishnu, for me, the more fascinating part as I was watching the soft and hard docking take place was the immenseness of the black space behind, and the majesty of our blue planet as it was, swirling, relatively speaking, behind the docking procedure. To me, that was the most fascinating part of the whole picture.
From that capture moment.
Dr. Deepak Gaur, I'm sure you must have followed what Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla said earlier in the day. He said he was a little unwell, and also he was sleeping a lot. You were part of the mission which selected astronaut Shukla. As a doctor, what is your feeling of what is the health of Group Captain Shukla now?
I'm sure he is going to be fine very soon, Pallav, because once you're actually exposed to zero gravity, things which are never really simulated obviously happened to you. And space motion sickness is a reality which most astronauts have to live with. The first 24 hours can be the most troublesome. I think those are already over, and I'm sure that Shubhanshu is going to get better and better.
Dr. Hemant Jahangir, a space traveler himself and physician scientist with us. Dr. Jahangir, what is space sickness? How long does it last? Dr. Jahangir, can you hear me? All right, apologies, we don't have him. I'm just going to go through our panelists. They've all joined, but I'm not sure why they're speaking. I think they're all pretty taken in by the moment. Manish Purohit, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Give us, your thoughts on this huge moment. We are deeply aspirational in terms of what we want to achieve in space. Now, this is a small step towards our larger objectives, but this is obviously an emotional moment for so many interested in science and space.
Yeah, this particular thing will motivate a whole lot of a big generation towards the endeavors in space, and they will start dreaming big about the space and taking up career in space. And there will be so many queries from the youngsters that how can they be in a place where right now Shubhanshu Shukla is. But the bigger thing is this particular moment is coming when India is already having its own plans of human space flight. And as very clearly mentioned by Shubhanshu Shukla itself, that this is the beginning of human space program. We have our G1 flight plan maybe somewhere down the line in November and December in this year. And then 2027, we have our own plans of our own Gaganyaan module flying into the space with our Gaganyaan 3s. 2028, we need our Bharatiya Antariksh Station first module in the space, then our crew module docking to it. So big things are planned for India. And then docking, the part we talk about. So right now, the visuals that we are getting, I want to explain a bit about this. What's happening right now? Right now, the umbilicals of Dragon will connect with the International Space Station, and then the International Space Station will take over the control. The power will be supplied from the International Space Station to the Dragon. The data from the Dragon can be read by the International Space Station, and it will become a part of it. Then pressurization will start. Once it's checked that there are no leaks, everything is perfectly in place, then they will start pressurizing this vestibule. Once that is done, then again there will be few checks. The checks will be for some, debris thing. If it is lying here and there somewhere, that will be checked. Air circulation will be checked. The air circulating tracks are there. That will be checked that they should be working perfectly fine. Why? Because in microgravity, there is an issue of CO2 pocket. That shouldn't be there. Once all these checks are done, and when they give a go for opening of hatches, hatch will open first from ISS side, then the hatch will open from Dragon side, and then they will move in, and then we'll see the meet and greet ceremony.
Allah?
Right now, what we can tell you is that the power and communication is now connected between the Crew Dragon and the International Space Station, and the power to the Crew Dragon is now coming from the International Space Station. This is a very important part of the docking procedure, because here onwards the power is coming from the International Space Station, and the communication is also going to be happening through the International Space Station. So important milestone over. And
we are troubleshooting the big loop audio comm issues from earlier, and the action we're about to take will take down big loop comm between ISS and the Axiom crew for about 5 minutes. We may require additional comm checks after.
What I'm hearing from the teams between SpaceX and Axiom is that they are doing some communication checks between the Crew Dragon, SpaceX, International Space Station, and there would be a 5-minute gap between the communication. But at the same time, right now they're continuing with the docking process.
And the big loop that you have been hearing that have connected everyone here inside of Mission Control Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room, those aboard the space station, and inside the SpaceX Dragon Grace spacecraft, and the teams in Hawthorne, California, those 4 parties, that's the big loop. They will troubleshoot those communications for about 5 minutes and then recheck But you heard just prior to that NASA astronauts Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers have begun the hatch opening procedures, in which the large hatch at the Node 2 zenith, that's the space-facing side of the Harmony module, has been opened, and that will allow for them to begin the hatch opening procedures and pressurize the vestibule, which is what, in addition to the comms checks, we will monitor, as Ayers will use a small valve on the station's hatch to slowly introduce air into the vestibule. That's the gap between the Dragon spacecraft and the International Space Station that has been exposed to vacuum. And from there, they will match the pressure, the atmosphere inside both station and Dragon.
All right, I'm joined now by Dr. Ayman Jahangir. Dr. Jahangir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on the program. Shubhanshu Shukla was perhaps a little space sick, seems to be getting better now. What exactly is space sickness?
Yeah, so this is actually quite common amongst many people who go to space. Something like 2/3 to 3/4 of the people who go up there get sick. And it's because what your eyes are seeing doesn't correlate with what your inner ear is telling you. You know, on Earth, we're grounded by gravity. So we were designed for this, or we were built here, however you want to say it. And so when our body goes into space, what our inner ear is telling our brain is different than when our eyes are telling our brain. So it's very, very common for people to get sick in space for the first few days until their body gets used to it. But really, after about 2 days, people feel better. So this is not uncommon. And despite Captain Shukla's amazing career, it happens to fighter pilots, it happens to astronauts who've been training for 10 years, and there's no way to really predict it, but it's just part of the process.
Jahangir, could you give us a sense of what happens next once the hard seal is achieved and the vestibule is pressurized and there are no leaks? I think what our viewers right now are really trying to understand is, why is it taking so long? It's a simple question, but I think it deserves an answer.
Yeah, so you would think it's as simple as opening a door, right? You've brought the Dragon capsule to the space station, but really there's a lot of things that have to happen between you pretty much attach and open this capsule to the space station. You want to make sure that everything is perfect, which is what they're doing right now. They're making sure that the pressure on one side is not greater than the pressure on the other side, because if that's different, you can have a big problem when you open the doors and have a vacuum, for instance. Now, once they get the doors open, and all of these things take a long time, and it's because they just want to make sure that everything is going perfectly, as perfect as can be, because they are in space, right? They're their own source of protection, of care right now. It's not like if there's a problem, they can just come back to Earth in the next 30 minutes. So this is a very important part of it. This is probably the most important part of the process after the launch, is making sure that these two are docked, which they've done successfully, and then making sure everything is correct. Now, once the door is open, I mean, it's going to be pure excitement, and you will see it, right? It's always the most exciting part of when a new capsule comes to the space station, is when the crews meet, and really you can just feel the enthusiasm in the video. So I'm very excited to see when Captain Shukla meets the crew of the ISS here, hopefully shortly.
Pallav, go ahead.
Well, the different procedures for the docking and the crew pressurization of the vestibule are going on. Right now, what I've been told is that at 7:05 p.m. India time, the welcome remarks will happen. This is now then communication between the crew members who are already there at the space station, the 4 who will join them, and the Johnson Space Center. They will have welcome remarks. So that would be a very lovely point, and they haven't specified how much before that will the crew enter the International Space Station. I presume it will be a few minutes before that. And usually when there is
Go ahead, Pallav, keep speaking, yeah.
Usually when there is a person from Navy, there is a bell which is rung. I don't think there is any person who is there from the Navy on this Axiom-4 mission, because 3 are scientists and 1 is an Indian Air Force person. So if the bell doesn't ring, don't get anxious. They would have still have entered because the bell rings only when there is a Navy person. Remember, the bell, when astronaut Sunita Williams entered the space station, they rang a bell. She is from the American Navy. So we expect at 7:05 the astronauts coming in a little earlier and the welcome remarks from the International Space Station. But right now we can say Group Captain astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla has created history and he is already there at the International Space Station.
The first Indian to be in an International Space Station since Rakesh Sharma was on Mir, the Russian space station, 41 years ago. But just think about it, Mir, 41 years ago, what a remarkable piece of engineering that was. And one of the capsules, or rather modules, in the International Space Station is also Russian. The Chinese, of course, have Shenzhen, which is their space station as well.
And we will have our own space station soon, Vishnu, which will be the Bharatiya Antariksh Station. 2035, we'll have a full-fledged station. And by 2028, we have to have the first module up in space. So we are very close to having a third space station. Before that, there could be private and commercial space stations coming up, both from Axiom and Vast Space. Two companies who are competing with each other to make private commercial space stations.
All right. Let's just listen into some of the audio from...
And when you on Dragon to ground, we are about to enter a LOS period for about 4 minutes, so we'll need to stand by.
Chris and Karthik, what are some of the science experiments that this crew would be involved in once they get on board?
Yeah, I mean, I was watching your compilation. Almost you have covered everything. From Indian side, it is almost like crop seeds on ISS. Then the sprouts, how it is in that environment, it is growth, it is there. And another thing is about some bacteria, cyanobacteria, which is called aquatic bacteria, and how it behaves, I mean, in that microgravity. And another one, microalgae organism, that is how it behaves with that those environment. And then myogenesis, that is like some muscle dysfunction and all those things regarding our physical things. And then the computer screens how it behaves in microgravity. And then a STEM concept, of course, out.
All right, hold on a second, we've got Shubhanshu Shukla's family sound bites coming in. Let's listen in.
सेफली वो पहुंचे और उसकी डॉकिंग हो एंड वो हमने भी देखा एंड आई एम सो हैप्पी कि वो डॉकिंग भी सेफली हो गई है जिसका जी हमारी बात उनके लॉन्च होने से पहले तो उनकी यहाँ से लिफ्ट ऑफ होने से पहले बात हुई थी एंड वो बहुत खुश और कॉन्फिडेंट थे वो बोल रहे थे कि वो पहुंचेंगे और अपना काम अच्छे से करेंगे जो उन्होंने करके दिखाया है आई एम श्योर थैंक यू पूरी दुनिया की नजर उन पे रही सफल लैंडिंग के बाद कैसे देख रहे हैं आप लोग कैसा इसी सफलता का पहुंच रहे हैं बस थोड़ी देर में वो डॉक करेंगे गौरवपूर्ण क्षण है सर आपके लिए
बहुत गौरवपूर्ण क्षण है हमारे लिए देश के लिए प्रदेश के लिए सभी के लिए गौरव का क्षण है और ये है हमारा तो बेटा ही है तो हमको तो बहुत ही खुशी होती है और देश प्रदेश की पूरी जनता हमारी जो बच्चे को आशीर्वाद दिया है उसके लिए हम सबका धन्यवाद अदा करते हैं पूरा देश आज बधाई दे रहा है
You and I cannot do it justice, even attempting to tell everyone joining us today about it. So instead, we have invited Axiom Space's own commander, Michael Lopez Alegria, to share from his previous experiences.
LA, MLA, or commander, you've got a few designations, right? For those who may not know...
How you doing, Paul? Good to see you, Ronnie.
Hey, it's good to see you as well, sir. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, good to be with you.
So for those who may not know, I've got to share a few stats here just to make sure people understand who we have joining us today on the show. You've flown to space 6 times, 2 of those to Dragon, on Dragon for Axiom Space. You've got a running total of, say, 296 days, 16 hours and 15 minutes, give or take or so, in space. You've conducted 10 EVAs over the course of your career, and when you're not in space, you're helping get others at Axiom Space to space, right? As our chief astronaut. Do I have all of that right?
Sounds good. I'm not sure about the minutes and seconds, but everything else sounds right.
That's awesome. Well, we want to spend some time with you and just ask you some questions about your experiences getting to...
All right, we'll come back to that in a moment, but we've got reactions of Shubhanshu Shukla's parents as well on the right-hand side of your screen with the Crew Dragon Harmony spacecraft completing docking at the International Space Station just a few minutes back. The astronauts haven't transferred as yet from the Crew Dragon spaceship onto the International Space Station. That'll take a little while as they equalize the pressure. But let's listen in to what Shubhanshu Shukla's dad said just a little while back.
हमारे बच्चे की जो है भी लैंडिंग हुई है, कायदे से जो है डॉकिंग हो गई, ये बहुत खुशी की बात है। ये बहुत ही अहम पड़ाव था, उसके लिए उसने जो है अच्छी तरह उसने मेहनत करके जो भी सक्सेस प्राप्त की है, उसके लिए हम बहुत खुश हैं। और बच्चे पर गर्व है, हमें पूरा अपने बच्चे पर गर्व है। और बच्चा बोल्ड है शुरू से ही, बताया तो कि स्कूल का जो है ये सब महिमा स्कूल की है। हम लोग भी हैं, मगर स्कूल ने बहुत कुछ दिया उसे, इतनी बोल्डनेस जो है बहुत ज़्यादा। अब उनका प्रोग्राम है, उसमें जाएंगे, मिलेंगे जाके, उनको बुलाया है तो हम जाएंगे, अभी यहीं निकलेंगे हम तो।
आप ये जो है मैम कैसे हो पीछे पुश हो रही है, लाइव लैंडिंग की है, सफल लैंडिंग के बाद कैसे ऐसा लग रहा है डॉकिंग कितना बड़ा दिन है, कितना खुशी का पल है आपको?
डॉकिंग कंप्लीट है, अभी हैचिंग बाकी है, उसके लिए वेट कर रहे हैं प्रेशराइजेशन के लिए। और शुभांशु एक बहुत ही मतलब he's a great example.
Pranav, thank you very much for being with us. What has this moment been for you? You've followed space now for a long time. It's obviously something which is happening for India only on the second occasion in 41 years. But it is momentous, and it augurs well for the Indian space program in terms of the knowledge that Shubhanshu Shukla will bring back with him as we go ahead developing our own Gaganyaan program. Pranav?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just talking to my wife a couple of hours ago, and I was telling her it's an extremely euphoric moment. I mean, half of the time I'm just trying to hold my tears back. It is extremely rare that a post-colonial country like ours, a country that has built its space program from scratch, a country that actually missed the bus on the International Space Station, is there and is conducting experiments. He's a national hero. He just took us leaps and bounds ahead of the kind of things that we could not have imagined to be done. It's a very big moment. I think I can't do justice in the present time, but historians, when they look back in time for the day that the kind of things that are happening today and the kind of things that will happen in next couple of weeks, historians would do more justice in defining and also historicizing the fact that how this moment took the countries such as ours on a very different trajectory than we could have ever imagined.
All right. Okay, so we're going to come back to live footage of the International Space Station. And it's just incredible to be seeing this in high resolution. They're at a speed of 26,490 odd kilometers at an altitude of 421 kilometers. It seems terribly still right now, but in fact, they are in orbit of the Earth at a remarkable speed. And just to think that the Crew Dragon, which you see which you see docked with the International Space Station now, being able to match the attitude of the International Space Station perfectly through maneuvers using thrusters and a lot of calculations and a lot of automated software and hardware to make it in perfectly like this. And it's become regular, it's become a regular feature. But it has to be said, every time it does happen, it just tells you about the insane progress that we've made when it comes to rocketry and space technology. It's been happening for decades, but we are focusing a lot on it now, obviously for Shubhanshu Shukla, but truly the technology is remarkable. And I think this docking technology is where India needs to get, because even when we set up our own International Space Station, we need to have the ability to dock two spacecraft together. And just in the last couple of months, we've taken important steps, critical steps towards having the ability of docking two satellites together. Pallav, you want to tell us about that and how that's a small replica of what we've just seen?
It's not a small replica.
It's an exact replica.
It's a giant step for India. Also, the docking mechanism which ISRO is using is a 21st century docking mechanism. They say it is superior to the docking mechanism which the International Space Station uses. And they say once they perfected it, in some respects it matches with the dimensions of the international docking procedure and the docking port, but the way it is done is superior because India has developed it in the 21st century, and the docking process which we are seeing through Crew Dragon and the International Space Station was done more than 30 years ago. So India is saying that the docking mechanism they have developed is superior. They have taken a patent over it. And right now what we did was to dock two spacecrafts, which are satellites, in a circular orbit. Next step would be to try and dock two satellites in an inclined orbit, because that's what India will need when India does its Chandrayaan-4 mission, which is to bring a sample from the moon. We need at least two dockings done, and those dockings will be done in an inclined orbit. So India needs to learn that. And then when we have a Bharatiya Antariksh Station, obviously docking would be essential. So India has learned the first steps, and currently the two satellites which experimented the docking for India are currently in orbit doing different sorts of maneuvers, some very tame maneuvers in a way, because docking, if I can call it tame, but right now they are into strategic maneuvers of chasing each other and doing stuff which satellites in the strategic sector do. So there's a lot happening between the two SpaceX chaser and the docking satellite. So India learning the first steps. And what is interesting for the Indian human space program is that all of this is happening in parallel. While India is preparing the crew module, apologies, I still slip of mind say Dragon, it's the crew module, the Gaganyaan crew module, the human space rated launch vehicle Mark III, which has almost been completed, and then we need to perfect the environment life control systems, have a plan for the Bharatiya Antariksh Station. So all of this happening in parallel. For other nations, a lot of this happened at sequential steps, but India is hop, skip and jumping and trying to catch up in a way and do better. So the Indian Space Research Organization is thinking way ahead, and the government has also given enough support for the organization to think till 2040 and have a plan for that. So docking is one small step. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla going to the International Space Station as part of Axiom-4, or what I sometimes call Mission Akash Ganga, is the first step for India's Gaganyaan program, which is to send an Indian astronaut from Sriharikota to space. And I repeatedly say that when the countdown will also be Indian. On the Axiom-4, the countdown was an American countdown. When Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma went, the countdown was a Russian countdown. So we need an Indian countdown when an Indian goes up. It would be a fascinating moment in India's history to be able to send an Indian to space from India. So the first steps have been laid. Group Captain Shukla is already at the International Space Station. He's trained for 10 months with NASA and Axiom Space. I presume he has imbibed all that needs to be imbibed on the human spaceflight program through his training, and he will bring that knowledge back to the Gaganyaan program and back to the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center in Thiruvananthapuram and to the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota and to the UR Rao Satellite Center in Bangalore, where teams are actively working for India's Gaganyaan program. And I'm told Prime Minister Narendra Modi literally monitors the Gaganyaan program on a monthly basis, making sure that they are catching up with whatever is lagging behind and all the tests need to be done. But obviously, Gaganyaan will be attempted when all the safety is in space, is in place.
Okay.
Because you can't launch an astronaut without safety. So sending a person is easy, bringing a person back from space is the hard part. So with Group Captain Shukla also, we've seen what can be called the easy part, bringing him back safely to Earth in that fireball of the Crew Dragon as it re-enters orbit is the most tricky part. So India has to learn all those, and that will happen. They are working very hard. I've seen up close and personal the hard work happening at Vikram Sarabhai Space Center on the rocketry, on the crew module. So India will become the 4th country in the world to have an independent, indigenously developed human spaceflight program. The last country to do it was China, and it happened in 2003. So whenever India does it, it will be the 4th country because no other country is attempting that.
Yeah. Air Vice Marshal Gore, your thoughts at this stage. Where do we stand presently with the Gaganyaan program? Air Marshal, you need to unmute yourself. Can you go ahead?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, like Pallav said, we have to be very fail-safe when it comes to a human in space. And to that extent, ISRO is already got plans in place about how they are going to be launching the human, the capsule without the human, with perhaps dummies to actually study what is happening inside our own space capsules and how the recovery takes place. So all these various stages of what we discussed yesterday about the mission aborts at launch, and everything needs to be actually practiced real time and so many times over in simulators before we actually send the human being into space. And ISRO is aware of this, and we are all working towards this.
Okay. Again, just for the benefit of our viewers who are tuning in now, what you see on the left-hand side is the Crew Dragon completing the docking process. The astronauts, including Shubhanshu Shukla, haven't crossed over into the International Space Station, where they will be welcomed in a short while from now. And that's something that should be absolutely amazing, because there is a bit of a ceremony over there. Shuks wasn't feeling all that great on the journey up, but space sickness is something which is not unusual. Everybody gets it, but then you get over it. And I believe he's feeling better now. And Shukla's parents on the right-hand side of your screen, I think that's footage from Lucknow,
yes,
which is where they live and which is where he's gone to school as well. I think what Pallav was referring to is something which is worth talking a little bit about, and perhaps we can get some expert comment on this. Dr. Karthik, would you like to tell us about how the next stage after they wind up this mission and get set to return to Earth is actually the most difficult, the most dangerous bit?
Actually, they have more experience. Axiom 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4th one. Since our Indian Shubhanshu Shukla involved, we are talking about that. I think so. They are familiar. It will be okay only. I mean, it is almost like it's similar to we are traveling on the 120 kilometer per hour. So inside the car, it is a closed chamber and we won't feel. But when we are looking from the outside, we are looking on the another frame of reference, all these difficulties. Since they have the experiences, many the capsules, so splashdown will be okay. Even the last splashdown also, I was looking out. That was in the night time, somewhat evening and the night time. So they are good and they are very, very good enough and have more experiences to handle that splashdown also. So I hope so. It will be, everything is positive and good enough.
Right now, we are getting an update from the Johnson Space Center, which is the main place where astronauts train and get on board the International Space Station or the Soviet mission. And they say that all is going as per plan, and they expect the welcome remarks at 7:05 p.m. India time. So all well, all systems go. We would be expecting that the astronauts on board the Crew Dragon are changing or doffing their space suits and getting into more comfortable suits, and then they will enter the International Space Station or float into the International Space Station through the hatch. And we saw astronaut Sunita Williams, when she entered the International Space Station from the Boeing Starliner, she did a jig and a dance, literally. Will we see Group Captain Shukla do that? I'm sure he will point to India's flag on his costume. That I'm relatively sure about, because that would be a given for him. But that's how it would be, and then we would expect the welcome remarks. But right now, it's a complex process of the hard docking which is going on, and the pressurization between the Crew Dragon, the vestibule, and the International Space Station is all happening right now. And then the leak test will happen, and then we will see them coming out.
All right, so the spacecraft is now directly, and the International Space Station is directly above Australia. Let's just go full screen to the feed from Axiom-4 and SpaceX, and let's listen in and see if there's any commentary coming in.
Southeasternmost portion of Australia, and they are in an orbital nighttime period right now, and that'll stretch on for another few more moments, and we hope to have those great views of the space station and the Dragon spacecraft once the sunrise and orbital daytime has returned. And again, tracking an 8:35 a.m. Central Time welcome remark, and shortly before then, you'll see the crew, and we'll have all that coverage and views of the Axiom Mission 4 team making its way into the orbiting laboratory. And again, a great interview there with Michael Lopez Alegria, commander, former NASA astronaut and commander of Axiom 1 and Axiom 3. And the ISS, the International Space Station, ready to welcome in Peggy Whitson, a former NASA astronaut, on her fifth flight, second with Axiom as commander of Axiom 2 and now of Axiom Mission 4, and bringing in pilot Shubhanshu Shukla of ISRO, Slawosz Uznanski-Wisniewski of ESA, and Tibor Kapu of Lunar, each representing India, Poland, and Hungary, respectively. It'll be the first time that those three nations have been on board the International Space Station. And that'll bring 14 different private astronaut crew members representing 11 different nations to the orbiting lab, showcasing the strength of private astronaut missions and how it expands access to the International Space Station and low Earth orbit for more nations, people, and opportunities. So we continue to follow along with the hatch opening procedures that Nicole Ayers and Anne McLean of NASA each working diligently through, and we'll continue to provide updates as they arrive. During that interview, we did hear that there was some troubleshooting that they were working on the big loop that has since been resolved. So we should hear communications on that big loop that connects both the Dragon spacecraft, the International Space Station, and the teams on the ground here inside of Mission Control Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room at NASA's Johnson Space Center, and well, the teams in Hawthorne, California, and the Mission Control Room at SpaceX. Currently on board the International Space Station.
Station Houston on the big loop for PMA.
Houston Station, go ahead on the big loop.
Hey, we're about to get you into your next activity, but in the meantime, would you mind setting up a video of the PMA so that we could watch the crew ingress? You can use the Node 2 Camera 1 or Camera 2.
That's in work.
Thank you.
communications from the ground here in Mission Control Houston up to the International Space Station, that PMA, pressurized mating adapter. And that is where NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers is currently operating in the hatch opening procedures, and they're asking to set up a camera so we can get live views in and witness the Axiom Mission 4 crew as they ingress or enter the International Space Station. So we will keep an eye out for those views coming from that pressurized mating adapter just inside the Zenith, Node 2 Zenith port of the International Space Station, that space-facing port. Before those communications, I'm going to say aboard the International Space Station as we speak, the 7 members of the Expedition 73 crew, featuring Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers, who are prime characters in today's docking operations, joined by Takuya Onishi of JAXA and Kirill Peskov, alongside NASA astronaut Johnny Kim, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Alexei Zubritsky. You heard during the interview with Michael Lopez Alegria some of those key milestones and celebratory moments that he celebrated in his time as the commander of Axiom Mission 1 and Axiom Mission 3 earlier, bringing those first-time flyers in Shubhanshu Shukla, Slawosz, Uznanski-Wisniewski, and Tibor Kapu into microgravity for the very first time. The International Space Station also featuring first-time flyers Nicole Ayers and Kirill Peskov, alongside with Johnny Kim and Alexei Zubritsky. For Ayers and Peskov, they recently just celebrated their 100th day in orbit this past
Station,
Monday.
you actually have both Node 2 cameras on. You guys are welcome aboard.
Fantastic. Those are great views. Thank you.
And there you see the live view that the team on board the International Space Station has just set up for us to see as we are inside the pressurized mating adapter, looking into what will be the APAS hatch that will eventually be pressurized, and the vestibule pressurized, to welcome the Axiom Mission 4 crew aboard once everything is equal in pressure from SpaceX Dragon to the vestibule to the International Space Station, and the hatches on the Dragon and Space Station side are open. Everything will be on schedule to welcome in the 4-member crew. And the, again, welcome remarks tracking for approximately 8:35 a.m. Central Time, 9:35 a.m. Eastern. And you heard Michael Lopez Alegria talking about the pinning ceremony that will take place during those welcome remarks. I'm looking forward to seeing those as the team aboard the International Space Station continuing to work through their hatch opening procedures.
Translates to 7:05 p.m. is when the hatch opening would take place.
A little before that, that's the opening remarks.
The opening remarks.
They haven't specified when they will walk in. So a few minutes before that, it happens simultaneously.
Right.
7:05.
The Axiom Mission 4 crew above the newly named Dragon SpaceX Grace spacecraft have tracked down the International Space Station through a stair-stepping procedure of multiple burns that occurred from just moments or a few moments after launch up until the early morning hours today, to allow them to catch up to the orbiting laboratory and set up for the final approach and docking, and that contact with the orbiting laboratory at 5:31 a.m. Central Time. And from that point on, it takes about 2 hours or so to allow for the hatch opening and hard mating procedures to be complete, umbilicals to be run, power and communications to be connected. And once everything is set, that's where you'll begin to see the hatch opening procedures and lead up to those welcoming remarks. And as you're following along with us, as we continue to wait for views of the International Space Station and the Dragon spacecraft as they are in an orbital nighttime period, making their way across the Pacific Ocean and approaching the equator, almost right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. We'll get those views back from the exterior cameras. And the astronauts on board the International Space Station continuing to configure the cameras for views inside the orbiting lab. If you are just joining us, you are watching live coverage of the docking of Axiom Mission 4 to the International Space Station, the fourth private astronaut mission to the orbiting lab and the first since January of 2024. Docking has occurred, and that was exactly an hour ago, 5:31 a.m. Central, 6:31 a.m. Eastern. And now with Axiom Mission 4 attached to the International Space Station, docking and leak checks and hatch procedures and opening procedures continuing to move along. The crew aboard the SpaceX Dragon Grace spacecraft going through their procedures, as well as the 7 members of the Expedition 73 crew who are in the middle of their workday, and namely NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers and Anne McLean, who oversaw today's approach monitoring from the cupola of the International Space Station, that window to the world that you see so many wonderful views from. And Nicole Ayers currently working in the space-facing hatch of the Harmony module, where on the other side of the APAS hatch and vestibule is the Dragon SpaceX spacecraft. Ayers will use a small valve on that station's hatch to slowly introduce air into the vestibule. That's the space between the Dragon spacecraft and the International Space Station. That area has been exposed to vacuum of space, so that needs to be brought up to 1 atmosphere, or about 14 psi, what we know here on Earth as the pressure at sea level. And the flight controllers here in Houston will continue to monitor that pressure and temperature readings inside and verify that everything is leak-free before we go ahead and open up the hatches. Just received communications from the team here inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room that the vestibule leak check has been successful and it is good. So they will continue to move forward with the hatch opening procedures. And again, you heard in the interview with Michael Lopez Alegria, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, as these teams making sure everything is sealed up and safe as they continue through hatch opening procedures.
Station Houston on the Big Loop. We are doing some more troubleshooting for the C2V2 audio issue, so Big Loop is going to be down for another 5 minutes. In the meantime, you are go to pick up in step 3.1 of 2.102, and NASA TV should be available on VME TV now.
There you heard communications radioed up to the crew aboard the International Space Station on the big loop that they are continuing with the troubleshooting of that communications as we are looking live up towards that node to zenith hatch in the Harmony module, and you see several members of the Expedition 73 crew in and out of the field of view. That is Nicole Ayers going into the pressurized mating adapter and continuing hatch opening procedures, and she is wearing the long-sleeved navy polo, and the red polo that just flew by, that is Expedition 73 Commander Takuya Onishi. We've also seen glimpses of Anne McLean in the field of view, as well as certainly everybody aboard the International Space Station anxious and excited to welcome Axiom Mission 4 with Commander Peggy Whitson, pilot Shubhanshu Shukla, mission specialist Slawosz Uznanski-Wisniewski, and mission specialist Tibor Kapu aboard the orbiting laboratory. This is Mission Control Houston. If you are just joining us, you are following along with live coverage of the docking and soon-to-be hatch opening and welcome remarks of Axiom Mission 4 to the International Space Station. The mission began with the launch off of Launch Complex 39A and NASA's Kennedy Space Center yesterday morning at 1:31 a.m. Central, 2:31 a.m. Eastern. That took them on a journey that was a little more than a day to get them to the orbiting lab. They have since docked, and contact was at 5:31 a.m. Central Time. And after the connections made, the hooks driving to form the hard mate, umbilicals with power and communications connections all run. Now it is those hatch opening procedures and leak checks that the crew is currently working through aboard the International Space Station, while the crew aboard the
on 2 for step 3.2, seeing about 0 for the DBTT, looking for your go to continue.
We see the same. You're go to proceed.
And continued communications as Nicole Ayers once again floating into that pressurized mating adapter and continuing those hatch opening procedures to welcome Axiom Mission 4. The target welcoming remark ceremony time, 8:35 a.m. Central. So a little more than 2 hours from now as leak checks and pressurization checks continue on before the APAS hatch and the vestibule and all procedures can be completed. And a great view of some of those procedures as Nicole Ayers, again, you can see her with that right hand turning the crank and working on that hatch to continue those procedures.
Dragon, station. This is Houston on the big loop for comm checks.
Dragon has you loud and clear.
Big breaking news coming in at this point in time. Iran's top leader Khamenei has now put out a post saying that it's a heavy slap to the face of US, and he's also threatened future actions against US bases in a post that he's made just very recently. This is his very first public post in over less than a week, we understand, ever since US had attacked the 3 nuclear bases in Iran. He said the Islamic Republic delivered a heavy slap to the US face. It has attacked and inflicted damage on the Al Udeid air base, which is one of the key US bases in the region. This is the post that has been put up by Al Khamenei. Remember, he's been absent and this comes while Iran has been facing its deadliest action in from Israel as well as US since some time from now, and we understand his at least week-long absence from public view had also triggered a lot of anxiety and had raised alarm. But we understand at this point in time, this is one post that he's made after over a week. At least it was the last post that that had come from Khamenei was on 18th June, we understand. And after almost a week, he is now spoken out and has made this public comments after a very long time, in which he said that he's claimed victory over Israel, and also said that we've delivered a heavy slap to the face of the US. All right, my colleague Deepthi also now joining us on the broadcast here, getting us more on that. Well, Deepthi, there have been a lot of questions being asked about Khamenei's absence, and we understand this is one post that he's made. This is the second post, I would rather say. One post was made almost 7 to 8 days back, but he's been absent for about a week, and clearly issuing a warning to the US and Israel here.
Oh yes, and Kitty, this tells us that nothing has changed. He also does say that surrender is a word that does not belong in my dictionary. He says the people of Iran will rise, they will respond to this aggression by the US. So you see absolutely no change in the tone and tenor of this man, who happens to be the supreme leader of Iran right now. And interesting is this timing. You know, he has surfaced, he has spoken. But where is he? No one still knows that. We do know that he's in a largely fortified bunker. His location still remains unknown. Is he in the best of health? Again, these are questions that are still being asked. In the last few hours, Kitty, why has he spoken now is a question again people are asking, because the timing is critical. There have been multiple reports, not just in the US media, but even the Iranian media had started to ask these questions that where is he? Largely, people have been on the streets. They want to know about the whereabouts of the supreme leader, about whether he's in the best of the health or not, is he still in charge, and what are we going to do? These are questions that have been discussed in Tehran and everywhere else. And that is why I think the timing of this video address also, not just what he's posting on the social media, but also the video that has been released earlier today, it is not dated. The last video of Ayatollah was the 18th of June. And if you look at the two frames, you will see him almost sitting in the same backdrop. You look at his body language, it doesn't give out much. So still we do not know that when was this video recorded, why has it been released now, what is the next step that Iran will take. He says that we will attack the US. The US should be ready for more attacks in case you continue your aggression. Donald Trump, on the other side, maintains that we have hit Iran hard. They will never be able to restart their nuke programs.
Right.
But again, he punches hole in that theory, and he said that the US attack, Kitty, achieved absolutely nothing.
Well, absolutely. Well, Al Khamenei hasn't been seen in the public since there have been, of course, multiple reports floating around clearly saying that he's taken shelter in a secret location after the outbreak of the war. But we understand there are multiple reports also that said there is no clarity as to these posts also, Deepthi, that, you know, Al Khamenei is making, whether it's him who's making these posts or it could be somebody else. I'll go back to Deepthi in just a bit. Meanwhile, this is the latest that's coming in at the moment. We will keep an eye on the developments here on this big story that we're tracking at this point in time. Meanwhile, shifting our focus now to Shubhanshu Shukla's journey to this space. We understand the Axiom-4 mission carrying ISRO astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla has already docked at the International Space Station. And these are live visuals coming in from the ISS.
Nicole Ayers, NASA astronaut, has returned to inside the pressurized mating adapter and working on the APAS hatch and hatch opening procedures as we continue to get great views from inside the International Space Station.
Check, hardline audio configuration complete, and we have resolved the audio issues on C2V2.
That sounds great, because we have you loud and clear.
We read you the same.
And that was a good communications checkout from the teams on the ground up to Dragon Grace on the C2V2 line, common communications for visiting vehicles, and that communications line connecting all parties. As we continue to work through hatch opening procedures, and again targeting approximately 8:35 a.m. Central Time for welcoming remarks as the International Space Station and Expedition 73 crew bring in and welcome aboard Axiom Mission 4. Both the orbiting laboratory and the newly docked SpaceX Dragon spacecraft over the northern Pacific Ocean, about to cross into the west coast of North America, right along the U.S.-Canadian border. And also around that time, we will start seeing an orbital daytime period as Dragon and the International Space Station have been orbiting in a nighttime phasing. Currently experiencing a satellite handover period, and we'll continue to bring you the live views from the International Space Station, both inside or exterior. Once communications is established, which should be here in the next few moments. Until then, you can see on this map where exactly we're talking about, where the station and Dragon orbiting over the Pacific Ocean and about to cross over North America and over the northernmost territories of Canada. As we wait for those communications to return, to recap, Axiom Mission 4 has connected with the International Space Station after launching from NASA's Kennedy Space Center yesterday morning at 1:31 a.m. Central Time to connect with the space station at 5:31 a.m. Central this morning. So a little more than a day's transit, and where it would execute a sequence of burns to raise its altitude and close the distance between Dragon Grace and the International Space Station through a phase burn, boost burn, close burn, transfer burn, and then eventually the co-elliptic burn to make sure that the spacecraft is on the same pathway as the International Space Station and able to make its way up and over top of it to connect to the space-facing port of the Harmony module, the Node 2 Zenith port, as we now get views back inside of the International Space Station. That is the view from the other side. We mentioned the space-facing port. That is looking up into where the hatchways will be to allow for the Axiom Mission 4 crew to pass through and be brought aboard the International Space Station. For Peggy Whitson, commander of Axiom Mission 4, her second flight as an Axiom commander after previously serving as commander of Axiom Mission 2. This is her 5th flight and return to the International Space Station, where she continues to build on an impressive career, the most experienced United States astronaut. Entered the mission with 675 days to her credit, and will certainly add to that record-setting total in her time aboard the orbiting laboratory, and bringing up pilot Shubhanshu Shukla of ISRO, Slawosz Uznanski-Wisniewski of Polsa, and Tibor Kapu of Lunar. And for Shukla, Uznanski-Wisniewski, and Kapu, representing India, Poland, and Hungary, respectively. For those nations, it'll be their first time coming to the International Space Station. Nicole Ayers. And the last one into the hatch, I believe that was Anne McLean, making her way in as they continue to work through hatch opening procedures. In the middle there, that is Expedition 73 Commander Takuya Onishi of JAXA. And then you just momentarily saw NASA astronaut Johnny Kim float in and out of view as the crew working together to continue these procedures, moving around some equipment, and to allow for the access to the APAS hatch. After successful vestibule pressurization and checks. And that's the operations that Nicole Ayers is working on right now with Takuya Onishi. And Johnny Kim, with camera in hand, to document these procedures. And again, just on the other side of this hatchway is where the Axiom Mission 4 crew going through procedures of their own, inventory and doffing their suits that they wore on the uphill ride to their initial orbit. And after an off-duty period would put back on for those dynamic phases of flight, starting with the approach initiation burn that occurred earlier this morning.
Well, this is history in the making. There has been some turbulence in the starting. There have been some delays, postponements, but we understand the Axiom-4 crew successfully lifted off on June 25th, just yesterday, into space on board SpaceX Dragon aircraft. And the Axiom-4 mission carrying ISRO astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla and his other crew members docked at the International Space Station just a while back. What's going to happen next is that the hatch will be open in some time from now, and this is what everybody is waiting for when the 4 Axiom-4 astronauts will enter the orbital lab.
and continue on with those procedures to welcome aboard.
My colleague Pallav
eventually
Bagla
the
also with
Axiom
us.
Mission
Pallav,
crew.
explain to our viewers what's happening now. What are we looking at, and how soon are we going to witness the hatch opening? How is it going to look like, and what's the process ahead?
Well, the hatch opening process is going on. The docking happened at 1 minute past 4 p.m. India time. And the welcome remarks, I am told, will happen at 5 minutes past 7 p.m. India time. And there's a long process of the hatch opening. Right now, you can see the International Space Station, the 7 astronauts who are there, and especially the 2 American and the Russian and the Japanese commander, getting things right so that the hatch on both sides can be opened and that the astronauts should be able to enter the International Space Station. That should happen a little earlier, and I'm told right now they have announced that the welcome remarks will happen at 7:05 India time. The docking is a very complex process. It takes several hours for it to be completed, and whenever the safety and the pressure between the crew module and the International Space Station is correct, only then will be the astronauts will start entering the International Space Station. But what we can say is Group Captain Shukla has reached the International Space Station, becoming the first Indian to go to the International Space Station. He has created history for India, and these are the first steps for India's Gaganyaan program, which is a massive program of rupees 33,000 crores, leading up till 2040 to land an Indian on the moon. So the first step for Gaganyaan have been laid, and they are firmly in place.
Absolutely, and there is much more that we are going to look at in terms of the research that's going to go on in the next 14 days also. I mean, how are the next 14 days going to look like, Pallav? You've been talking about that earlier as well, but for the viewers also joining us now, how is that going to look like?
Well, 14 days for Earth will look like very similar whatever we do, but 14 days for Group Captain Shukla would be a life-changing moment, as Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma told me. But more than that, every minute of Group Captain Shukla is literally logged at the International Space Station. He has more than a 12.5-hour day every day. The International Space Station works at London time, so he will wake up along at the London time and then continue his 12.5-hour day. Only after that would he get time to go into the cupola and see Earth from there. So it's going to be a packed 14 days of work. In between, there are 3 events which we know of, maybe more. There are 2 outreach events. One, he will participate with the students of his own alma mater, City Montessori School in Lucknow. Then he will also talk to experts and to students in Thiruvananthapuram. And there is also an interaction with a VIP. And I leave it to your better judgment who that VIP would be. While most of us know who the VIP would be, and I am not going to give out chocolates to people who guess it right, but we will have a Sare Jahan se India moment in this mission, and he has 7 India-specific experiments to do, and there are 5 NASA ISRO experiments. Those 5 experiments we have no details of, and there are in all 60 experiments from 31 countries which this crew of 4 will be executing. But for this mission, India has spent rupees 550 crores or so, and this money is all in preparation for India's Gaganyaan program.
Absolutely. All right. All right, let's also now listen in to what's happening there. These are live pictures now coming in the feed that we're getting from the ISS.
Procedures as they now look to cover up the APAS hatch, which was just opened a few moments ago, to provide an extra layer of safety and protection for astronauts passing through.
All right. This is a very thrilling, very exciting moment for us all, and I'm sure for Shubhanshu Shukla and his crew members who are there at this point in time, it's very exciting for them as well, but there must be some nervousness as well. But we've seen the message that he sent from space just some time back, and he was all smiles there, his crew members as well. And we do hope that this process that's taking place at the moment, the hatch opening process that's continuing at the moment, it's going to take some time at least. This happens successfully as well. Nalin Chandra Vikramasinghe, astronomer and astrobiologist, also with us. Thank you so much, Mr. Vikramasinghe, for joining us here on the broadcast. As I was saying, it's history in the making. And it's a very exciting moment for us all. How do you see this? How exciting, or also, at the same time, if I could say, as Rakesh Sharma also said when he was asked about, what was the most thrilling part about being in space, he said it was actually coming back to Earth. So we do hope it all goes well, and it started well, and we hope it ends well as well.
Well, I hope it ends well. It's certainly very dramatic start, and I enjoyed watching it on your television coverage. I think this is a tremendous moment for India and a tremendous opportunity for Indian science. The International Space Station has been around for 20 years. India has been excluded from the group of scientists who were working on it thus far, but already before the Indian involvement, they've made many very important discoveries relating to biology, life under low gravity, lots of new physics, and so on, survival of organisms, including creatures like the famous tardigrades, survival of bacteria under extreme conditions, and so on. So I think Group Captain Shukla has a lot of science that he can do, and I hope he will do. India is by no means a novice in space. In fact, I think one could say that they were leaders in space research long even before the Europeans and Americans took off in a big way. So I'm very optimistic that great science, new discoveries will be made in this endeavor, and Indian science would leap forward into a new phase of their development.
Absolutely. Sir, I'll just come back to you. We also have to dip in back to these live visuals and the feed that we're getting here from the ISS. Let's take a look.
Down to the team at SpaceX. They are awaiting the go for hatch opening. I'd imagine the crew aboard the Dragon Gray spacecraft anxious and excited to float into the International Space Station for the very first time. And you just saw that orange ductwork or hose-like piece of equipment that Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers were just operating with. That's a part of helping mix the air between the International Space Station and the Dragon spacecraft. They'll continue to check some vent valves as well, so it just might be a little bit more time before we welcome the crew on board. But these final checks, again, critical to making sure that everything is good and sealed tight with no leaks and no issues, as Dragon Grace will be docked to the International Space Station for approximately the next 2 weeks.
Houston, SpaceX station is ready for Dragon hatch equalization.
Houston, copy. Stand by.
Another step in those hatch opening procedures is Nicole Ayers just radioed down for the SpaceX Dragon hatch pressurization and equalization. As you see the pop of flash bulbs aboard the International Space Station being documented, and plenty of smiles from the Expedition 73 crew as we draw closer and closer to hatch opening and welcoming Axiom Mission 4 aboard the orbital outpost. Meanwhile, here on the ground inside NASA's Mission Control, the International Space Station Flight Control Room, anticipation also building up as the room's starting to fill with NASA leadership, as well as the Athena flight team continuing to work through the hatch opening procedures. Flight Director Allison Bollinger closely monitoring every step of the way as Nicole Ayers continuing to work through each checkpoint on her list. That's what you saw on the little tablet that she was referring to, making sure every step is covered as she has now floated back into the pressurized mating adapter across the APAS hatch.
Station Houston on the big loop. We're still working some ground config actions before we're ready for equalization. In the meantime, can we get confirmation that the standoff cross went into the standoff cross bag? We were unable to tell from the video.
It was in there when you guys called. Thanks.
Copy, thanks.
Hearing communications from teams on the ground as they continue to work through hatch opening procedures and making sure all pressurization and leak checks are good and everything equal between the Dragon spacecraft and the International Space Station before the hatches can be formally opened on both sides. You can see into this hatchway the space-facing port, or into the space-facing side of the Harmony module aboard the International Space Station and the International Docking Adapter that welcomed the connection of Axiom Mission 4 at 5:31 a.m. Central Time earlier this morning. And since then, the crews aboard both the Dragon Gray spacecraft and International Space Station have been diligently working and continue to monitor the progress of that hatch opening, with teams on the ground also following suit.
All right, live feed coming in from the ISS, where we understand the Axiom-4 mission docked on the International Space Station a while back. That was around 4:45 p.m. Indian Standard Time. And now what's happening now, what you're looking at on your TV screens is the hatch opening process that's taking place. We are now learning it's going to happen in just a little bit from now, when the 4 Axiom-4 astronauts are going to enter the orbital lab. And there was this a little warm exchange also that happened between the ISS and Axiom-4 crew members also. And that was very interesting. We understand one of the ISS crew members said that, we can't really wait to open the hatch and give you guys a big hug. And Peggy Whitson was the one who replied to that, saying that we're looking forward to it and we are really honored to be here.
Station, Dragon,
So Kitty,
Houston on
the
Big
puppy
Blue.
and Jhappi moment will come very soon. Right now, the hatch on the International Space Station side has been opened up. We can see American astronauts preparing the vestibule for the entry of the 4 Axiom-4 astronauts. So it's a fairly long process. What NASA has announced that at 5 minutes past 7 p.m. there would be the welcome remarks. We do not know what time the astronauts would, I don't know whether to say walk in, float in, or fly in. It's all going to be very interesting to see Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla entering the International Space Station. What I'm very sure is that he's going to be pointing towards his India flag as he enters, because he carries that flag on his uniform which he's wearing. And this will be the first time when India's flag will float into the International Space Station and an Indian would reach inside the space station. Group Captain Shukla is already at the International Space Station because the Crew Dragon docked with the International Space Station at 1 minute past 4 p.m. That was exactly the time when it docked, a soft capture, and then it's a long wait before all safety checks are done. And finally, once the pressure and the air between the crew module, which they have named Grace, and the International Space Station, and they've docked with the Harmony module, when the pressure and the air is stabilized and checked and there is no leaks, and then so they are proceeding ahead with the procedure for opening the hatch, and we may probably see
Steps in 4.400.
We may probably see the astronauts coming in because they're going in for the opening of the hatch on the Crew Dragon. And you can see the entire crew at the International Space Station waiting for them to go. And you can see the cameras are ready to take the pictures, and the puppy Jhappi moment may just arrive.
Arrival of Axiom Mission 4, the International Space Station.
SpaceX Dragon, hatch is coming open.
SpaceX copies.
American commander. Group Captain Shukla is the pilot, and a Hungarian and a Polish astronaut, creating history for not just India.
73 crew anxiously awaiting as we just received the go for hatch opening to welcome Axiom Mission 4 into the International Space Station. There you see Anne McLean in the foreground.
Let's listen into the commentary which is coming in from
with Johnny Kim on the
NASA.
far right-hand side. NASA astronaut, and then Roscosmos cosmonaut Kirill Peskov next to him, with Alexei Zubritsky and Sergei Ryzhikov, also of Roscosmos in that mix. And right there in the middle, almost standing, if you will, from our perspective, is Expedition 73 Commander and JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi. From this view, they are looking
SpaceX
up.
Dragon, hatch is open at 12:14, and we're requesting the go for the LIO change.
Copy 1214 Zulu hatch opening time, and you are go for LIO swap.
And there you heard that the hatch is open and confirmed at 7:14 a.m. Central Time, as the hatches are open between SpaceX Dragon Grace spacecraft and the International Space Station. Again, 7:14 a.m. Central, 8:14 a.m. Eastern. And you heard also the swaps of the LiO canisters. That's the lithium hydroxide cartridges that scrubbed carbon dioxide inside of the Dragon spacecraft on the ride to the International Space Station. Also, Nicole Ayers out of view, but if from this perspective, looking up, she is operating with the Axiom Mission 4 team to help refresh the air and cycle air between the two craft as they continue a few more procedures before floating across and into the orbiting laboratory for the first time.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop for LiO cartridge.
Go ahead for LiO cartridge.
Just looking for clarification on your next action there. We're tracking LiO cartridge sealing per 2.102 step 6.5.
Oh, okay. And in my procedure, I had for the instructions on the decal for section. For section 4 of the instructions on the decal.
And copy that, Peggy. We'll defer to the instructions in 2.102.
Okay, that's where we are.
You just heard communications between Axiom Mission 4 Commander Peggy Whitson and the teams on the ground as they were talking about the swapping of the lithium hydroxide cartridges as the hatch has been opened between the Dragon spacecraft and the International Space Station just a few moments ago at 7:14 a.m. Central Time. And this is a view inside the International Space Station, looking forward, if you will, as the astronauts and cosmonauts aboard are looking up. That is towards the space-facing port of the Harmony module. That's where they are in now. If you were to keep going forward, if you will, that is the forward port, which currently is occupied by Dragon Endurance from Crew 10. And a great microgravity demonstration of the camera that Alexei Zubritsky is using to help document and be a part of the welcoming committee for Axiom Mission 4 here in the next few moments.
Dragon Houston on the big loop. Just to confirm, we want to make sure IMV duct installation is complete before we do LiO cartridge sealing.
Yes, the IMV duct installation is complete. My bad, I didn't get it reported.
Houston copies.
Now we switch views from pretty much the point of view of what the astronauts have been looking at from what we have seen. They were looking up, and this is the shot up into that node 2 zenith hatchway of the Harmony module. That is Nicole Ayers, NASA astronaut, just on the other side of that APAS hatchway, working with the Axiom Mission 4 crew. You heard them talking about IMV ducting and LIO cartridges. That IMV ducting helps mix the air of the International Space Station environment with the air inside of Dragon. And then also looking to seal up some of those lithium hydroxide cartridges that are used to scrub carbon dioxide from the air in the spacecraft on their journey to the International Space Station. And that journey started yesterday morning, 1:31 a.m. Central Time, 2:31 a.m. Eastern, as they would launch on the SpaceX Dragon, newly named Grace spacecraft, on a Falcon 9 rocket from Launch Pad 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center, and would chase down the International Space Station earlier this morning at 5:31, nearly 2 hours ago. 5:31 a.m. Central, 6:31 a.m. Eastern, a little bit more of a day's transit.
Houston and SpaceX Dragon arrival configuration is complete.
Houston copies.
SpaceX copies.
Continuing to target a welcome ceremony or welcome remarks in the near future at 8:35 a.m. Central Time. So a little bit more than an hour from now is Axiom Mission 4 and the International Space Station continuing to work through hatch opening procedures, but getting close. You can start to see a little bit of a window of opportunity that was just on the other side of astronaut Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers there, as they are working on IMV ducting, mixing the air of the station and Dragon.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Do you really know the company you invest in?
Axiom Mission 4, welcome aboard the International Space Station. Pilot Shubhanshu Shukla is the next one to come across, representing ISRO. It is his first space flight for Peggy Whitson, her return to the International Space Station on her 5th flight, second as a member of Axiom Space. Slawosz Uznanski-Wisniewski of ESA, representing the nation of Poland. And their first visit to the International Space Station is next to cross the hatchway. And warm hugs all around. And applause breaking out here inside of Mission Control Houston and International Space Station Flight Control Room, and Tibor Kapu, the 4th and final member of Axiom Mission 4, representing Hunor and the nation of Hungary, their first visit to the International Space Station as well. Great big hugs and handshakes across all members of Expedition 73 and Axiom Mission 4 is Anne McLean and Nicole Ayers of NASA, along with Johnny Kim, Kirill Peskov, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Alexei Zabritsky of Roscosmos, and Takuya Onishi, commander of Expedition 73 and of JAXA, with handshakes and hugs for Peggy Whitson, Shubhanshu Shukla, Slawosz Uznanski-Wisniewski, and Tibor Kapu. And with their arrival to the International Space Station, that now makes 288 visitors to the orbiting laboratory. Axiom Mission 4 is now aboard the International Space Station. Commander Peggy Whitson, in her return to the orbiting laboratory, her 5th flight. 3 is a member of NASA, and her 2nd as commander of an Axiom Space private astronaut mission, commander of Axiom 2 and here of Axiom 4. Regaling the crew with smiles and stories. To her left, or our left from her viewpoint, to her right, Slawosz Uznanski-Wisniewski of ESA, Shubhanshu Shukla to her left of ISRO, and Tibor Kapu on that far right-hand side of our viewpoint. The crew is safely aboard the International Space Station. Welcome again to Axiom Mission 4. And we are continuing to target a formal welcome remark from the crew and being joined by the Expedition 73 team as well. That'll be at approximately 8:35 a.m. Central Time. And from there, they will receive a safety briefing and begin their approximately 2-week mission aboard the International Space Station, in which they will participate in around 60 research investigations representing 31 countries, with more than 24 of those experiments sponsored by the ISS National Lab. And there they all are, waving back at our coverage here inside of the International Space Station Flight Control Room.
Station Houston on 2. Thanks for the wave. Great to see everybody.
Houston Station, we're happy to be here. It's so great to be here finally. It was a long quarantine.
And with the crew now in the space station, we're going to wrap up our portion of the live joint coverage from Hawthorne. It's been an honor to support Axiom Mission 4 thus far, and we wish the crew a successful time on the space station. We're, of course, also looking forward to joining AX-4 again when it's time to return home.
Ronnie, from launch to docking, it has been an absolute pleasure sharing this desk with you. What has been years in the making for India, Poland, and Hungary is now well underway. Axiom Space and NASA's joint coverage will continue from here through to the welcome ceremony as Peggy, Shubhanshu, Slawosz, and Tibor start their 2 weeks aboard the orbiting laboratory. Over the course of our crew's time on station, we will be producing mission updates from Axiom Space's own space station development facility in Houston, Texas. So we invite you to follow the progress of AX-4 on axiomspace.com and through Axiom Space's social media channels.
So with that, on behalf of SpaceX, Axiom Space, and NASA, thank you all for tuning in to watch. While our stream on X is coming to a close, coverage of the welcome ceremony...
All right, absolutely fantastic news, isn't it? We've got Shubhanshu Shukla, the first Indian astronaut in 41 years to be on a space station, the first one in 41 years to be in space. 41 years back, he was on Mir, the Soviet space station. He's now on the International Space Station. This is a breathtaking moment for the entire country, certainly for the Indian space program. There is so much enthusiasm associated with that. Pallav Bagla, watching all of this. Pallav now has this habit of being in tears quite frequently.
No,
but I think
I'm very happy.
He is thrilled.
Absolutely
and
thrilled.
We are all thrilled at this. For Shubhanshu, who wasn't feeling all that great in the last couple of hours because of space sickness, but he's knocked that off and he seems to be doing quite fine. It's a 14-day mission. Remember, this is not where India's cosmic leap as far as this mission is concerned ends, because just getting back is not easy, and that's going to be another big adventure. But in the meantime, there's some fundamental science to be done. Shubhanshu Shukla will be a part of that entire process. All of this leads up to Gaganyaan, which is India's own crewed mission, Indian technology, Indian astronauts, Indian engines, Indian sensors, Indian navigation, everything, right? And that's all being tested out. 2028 is what we're looking at. But to get to that stage requires a lot in terms of engineering jumps. We are well underway. We've got our ambition, we've got our funding, and we've got the talent in India to be doing this. But this is something that we're going to be seeing on an Indian space, space station as well in the not too distant future. Let's say about 2035 or so. Pallav and I will be 35 and 25 years of age respectively at that stage. So we will be around. You can bet your bottom rupee that we'll be around. But joining us at this stage, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the American astrophysicist and writer. Mr. Tyson, thanks so much for being with us. We are
congratulations.
We are an emotional people, we Indians, and we get a bit emotional, sometimes too emotional. But it is a big moment. It's a moment of pride to see one of our countrymen up at the International Space Station. It's taken far too long. You know about our space ambitions. So could you reflect on what this means for a country with a developing space program?
Yeah, I can tell you without hesitation that an astronaut representing a country upon returning to is a hero. Just put it out there. They're a hero. People will line up to take photos with them, and it's the way I joke about it and I say, no one has ever given a parade for a robot, okay? But we do it for people. When one of our own does something heroic, is on an adventure and comes back to talk about it, that's important. And so another way to think about this, we should all look forward to the day where this is no longer interesting because it's happening so often. And when you reach that point, then you can truly declare yourselves to be a spacefaring nation, where it's just, got another mission going up this week. Cool. We'll find out when they get back, what they've been up to. And I want to say something quick about these images we've been seeing.
Yep.
I just want to remind you, everyone in that scene is weightless.
Yep.
So they could have had fun and had one of them completely upside down, alternating, and they would feel no different. So they all lined up just for the camera. I just want you to know that.
Yeah.
There is no up or down when you are weightless in orbit around the Earth.
I think it's people around the world would have seen images and videos like this for so many years, and the quality of the video just keeps getting better. But I think, Mr. Tyson, the point which I'd like you to reflect on is the fact that there's nothing ordinary or easy or simple about human beings being on the space station. in space, right? It is incredibly difficult. It was in the 60s and it is now.
Yeah, so I cannot overstate the fact that at the end of the day, yes, it is rocket science. And the number of scientists and engineers and administrators and way back in there, the funding streams, all of this has to work. And when it doesn't work, it puts lives at risk. And so, fortunately, we've had many steps tested and retested, which has reduced the risk, but the risk is not zero. And astronauts have died, not only on the launch pad, but in space. And so, yes, we should never take any of this for granted. And there's the saying that we say in the United States, maybe other countries say it too. We say Godspeed to the astronauts. And, the very word goodbye came from a time that's a contraction of God be with you when you left the city walls. And it was very dangerous moving between the cities. So you looked for divine protection where it was most dangerous. Well, when our first astronaut, John Glenn, was in space, 1962, the headline was Godspeed, John Glenn. A dangerous thing to be traveling that fast on an adventure hardly tested by anyone. And so, yes, this emotion is still with us when we see our astronaut heroes take these voyages.
Dr. Neil, this is Pallav Bagla from the NDTV office. Welcome to the broadcast. There were many Godspeed moments for this mission. While they were still on the ground, there were several delays. And when astronaut Peggy Whitson came into the International Space Station, she spoke about the long quarantine. We had several issues. And then as the mission was lifting up, we also had two anxious moments with a fiber in the hatch and then the wind file not uploading. What do you have to say for that? These were very anxious moments for this particular mission, and a 30-day quarantine? Is that the longest you ever heard of?
Maybe, but I mean, they're all professional. Remember that. So, and I'd rather, delay the mission than take the risk of not having it ever succeed. So we can be frustrated. What's the delay? Wait, fix the delay. No, take your time fixing the delay, because I don't want to raise the risk of harm that is already inherent in the entire operation. So yes, I think you were very close to this mission, and every little step. Every mission has little things that go wrong. Fortunately, much of the system, and thanks to engineers, have redundancies built in, so that if something goes wrong, there's a backup. Or if this goes wrong, we'll do without that for now, and maybe for the rest of the mission, we'll just compensate in other ways. So well-designed, risky missions will always have these backup scenarios, always in the interest of protecting human life.
Dr. Neil, in November, we complete 25 years of continuous human presence at the International Space Station. How exciting is that? And one more follow-up question for you. In 25 years, we've invested billions of dollars of taxpayer money on the International Space Station. Which is 1, 2, or 3 blockbuster research which has emerged from the space station?
Well, so I think the way you need to think about it, well, of the many ways to think about this, for me the most important is not listing the achievements or the scientific research and the results that come from it. You could do that, but I think there are other forces operating. For example, just the national pride of each country that has an astronaut represented on the space station. If I read correctly, each of the Polish astronaut, the Hungarian astronaut, and of course the Indian astronaut is their first time to the space station. And this is very important in the countries for which they are represented. And what I'm getting at is, that space exploration and launches and landings and space stations requires fluency in science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM fields. Well, if you're a kid wanting to know what should I do when I grow up, and you see this happening in space, it is a force of inspiration that rivals a force of nature unto itself, driving interest in the STEM fields. And the STEM fields are the engines of the future growth economies of the world. So an impact can be measured by other ways beyond just a checklist of activities that have been conducted. You can try to measure the force it has on a culture and on civilization. And I'll tell you this as well, that it's the science, it's the STEM fields that stand the greatest chance of lifting a nation out of poverty. Because this is where economies are born. This is where high-tech industries, quality jobs arrive. And so when I think of space, I see it as a force of inspiration, not as a checklist to see what did you accomplish today.
Dr. Neil, India has a program going up to 2040 for which the government has invested a huge amount of money, which is to land an Indian on the moon by 2040. So the roadmap is quite clear for India. For you, sitting from your perch, that India will soon have its own human space program, an Indian space station, and land an Indian on the moon, and be a developed country by 2047. Does that sound good and exciting to you?
It's always good to have the goals. When President Kennedy said, we will land a man on the moon before the decade is out, we felt that we said, we don't want to make a liar out of him. Let's go ahead and do this. And by the way, I want to add to what you said. So it's not just an Indian space station and an Indian landing on the moon. You hinted at it, but I want to drive home. Part of that goal is that it's completely top to bottom Indian-produced technologies. And so it's no longer a commercial venture from another country. It wouldn't be SpaceX or NASA. So you'd be doing it on your own, and that is another source of pride that I know we had when we were going into space, we, the United States. So I wish India well. I wish them luck. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck as well, but it's less luck and more brilliance in the scientists and engineers that are attempting to make that happen.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, wonderful speaking to you, and I agree entirely. It is Indian engineering at the end of the day, which really has to come of age. In many senses it has, but as you push the boundaries even further, there's a lot more to achieve, and I think we're really making a lot of progress there. I'm now joined by...
Yeah, and by the way, if I can quickly add...
Go right ahead.
Yeah. When India landed on the moon with the rover, and the headlines were, India becomes the 4th country to land on the moon. And I thought to myself, that's not the headline. You know what the headline was? India becomes the 1st country to land at the moon's south pole. We think there are reservoirs of water frozen in the bottoms of craters where the sunlight never reaches, because it's near the pole. The sun doesn't get very high in the sky, and so it's always shadowed from the crater rim. And so any water that fell there from comets has stayed there for billions of years. The future of colonies on the moon is going to be the South Pole. And to the extent that India targets that, they could lead the world, not just be a country that lands there. They might just lead the world in what kind of innovative exploration would be conducted there.
Dr. Tyson, it's interesting you mentioned that, because it was the Chandrayaan-3 mission that you're talking about, where we were able to land...
Yes, Chandrayaan-3.
But Chandrayaan-1 was really interesting because it detected the presence of water molecules. There were sensors from NASA and other countries as well, but it was an Indian spacecraft which actually detected the presence of water molecules to the extent that it triggered this huge international interest linked now to what you are saying. So, it's already there. And I think the next couple of years are going to be fantastic because the Gaganyaan program, which Pallav and I are talking about, which is the crewed Indian mission, is actually really far down the road. In terms of rocketry, they've got the rocket. They are now working through various checks. They've already done a pad abort test. They're looking to do another abort test at a higher altitude. There is already something called
A robot.
Avyom Mitra. That's our a humanoid robot, which would be launched first as a trial on an uncrewed mission. And then, of course, we are working through habitation right now and habitable solutions for our own spacecraft, because we felt that the import of this technology wasn't necessarily A, cost effective, and B, it wasn't working for our needs. And that is a huge engineering challenge, which we are working out now, crew habitation. But once that is fixed, the rest of it appears to have been coming along quite nicely. So 2028 is not an overly optimistic target. I suspect it will happen, and let's hope successfully. And so, there's a lot to talk about there, and we certainly look forward.
I'm very glad to hear.
Yeah.
I'm very glad to hear of these tests. One thing you have to prepare the public for is when you are doing something that you've never done before, there will be failures.
Yes.
Something's going to blow up on the launch pad. Okay, you hope there's no human involved. At worst case, it would be your robot, but not even the robot. You don't want the robot. People get attached to robots.
Yes.
So I just want to affirm that it still is rocket science, and there will be failures. And that's how you know you're on the frontier, because there's something, I had not considered that. Oh my gosh, I just made a discovery. And with the Artemis Accord, which India signed after Prime Minister Modi came through the United States and visited, I had the privilege of meeting him when he came through New York, and then he went on to Washington. They signed the Artemis Accord, which is it's an agreement that's signed by more than 100 countries now. Last I checked, I think it was if you make a discovery, you share the results so that everyone can benefit.
Yep.
And that way, any one country that makes advances, in a way, brings all countries with them.
Right.
And that level of participation, I think, is what we need. It's what we want going into space in the future.
All right. Look, it's so wonderful speaking to you, Dr. Tyson. You are such an inspiration for all of us, particularly space geeks like Pallav and me, who also happen to be journalists and primetime anchors, but wonderful speaking to you. Thank you so much. We're joined by Dr. Tanya Harrison, a planetary scientist at the Outer Space Institute in Ottawa, Canada. Dr. Harrison, great to have you on board. Dr. Tyson was speaking about towards the end of our conversation was so important, the peaceful use of space. And India is now a signatory to the Artemis Accords, which means that we want space to be equal access, we want space to be free, we want it to be information sharing, data sharing, science sharing, and in a sense non-competitive. In terms of the future of space research, how should that be the way forward, in your opinion?
I think what you just said checks all the boxes. Scientists just want to collaborate with each other and better understand the moon, the evolution of our solar system, the evolution of the Earth-Moon system. So how did we end up the way we are now? And the cool thing about space is that we've often been able to collaborate with each other across international borders in a way that doesn't really happen on the ground. And so I think it's fantastic that we're trying to continue this tradition through programs like Artemis and the Artemis Accords. And it's amazing to see India come on board. Like you and Dr. Tyson were just talking about, India has made some incredible contributions to lunar science in the last decade plus, but also amazing contributions to Mars science. Mars is kind of my jam. And with the Mars Orbiter mission, you guys were just game-changing with some of the images that you managed to get back from that. So it's really amazing to see the number of countries that have access to space, that are sending astronauts to the space station, adding to the global scientific community. Like, it's all just a benefit at the end of the day.
Dr. Tanya, do you think we would soon be permanently inhabiting the moon?
I think so. The goal of the Artemis program is to send humans back to the moon to stay this time, not just flags and footprints. And so I think with Artemis 3, once we start actually putting infrastructure on the surface, it's just going to be baby steps there. But we've got India's plans to go to the moon. We have China's plans to go to the moon. I don't think it's going to be long before we start seeing permanent infrastructure and humans there to stay, just like we've seen for 25 years now on the space station.
Let me ask you this, and perhaps not the best day to be asking this because we are talking about crewed missions to the International Space Station, but the question is that there is this entire line of thought that crewed missions come with so many risks and so many expenses and so many additional technologies that perhaps robotic missions are a lot more cost effective and perhaps even a lot more effective in terms of deep space. How would you look at that entire argument?
I mean, as someone that's worked on a lot of rovers and satellites, they are capable of amazing things, but they are not as capable as a human brain. The stuff that we can do with a rover on a place like the moon or Mars is like 1/100th the speed of something that a human could do. So sending humans somewhere is definitely more expensive. It's more complicated, but we get a lot more science return at the end of the day with things that a scientist can do. You can actually go and pick up a rock and look at it from all different angles. You can stand there and look at the scenery around you, which as a geologist, that's a really important thing to be able to do. It's not that easy to do science remotely. And when you are looking at pictures of a place or looking at data from a place, but you haven't actually been there to see it, it's a complete game changer. So yes, it's much more complicated. It's much more expensive. But I think especially for places like the moon and Mars, once we have humans there in the case of Mars or return humans there in the case of the moon, we're going to learn so much more quickly than we would be able to do if we just kept sending robotic missions for the next few decades.
Dr. Harrison, you were speaking about India's Mars orbiter mission, Mangalyaan, as we called it. In fact, Pallav Bagla, who's with me in the studio right now, is somebody who likely coined that name, which stuck. ISRO picked up on it, and we all refer to it as Mangalyaan. But the Mars orbiter mission, what was special about it?
I mean, that was just India's first mission to Mars. I think that made you guys the third country to successfully get something to Mars, or fourth, I guess, with the European Space Agency. And so again, it just opens up a lot of doors.
In the first attempt.
In the first attempt. That's amazing too. Like Dr. Tyson was just saying, a lot of stuff fails on the first attempt. So the fact that it was successful and it returned a bunch of incredible data is really amazing. So I'm looking forward to seeing what India is going to do at Mars next. I hear you're planning a follow-up to that mission.
Yes, also a first mission to Venus is on the cards. Not many countries have been to Venus, and Venus is very exciting too. Does that excite you?
Oh, absolutely. We know so little about Venus because we've sent so few missions there. So it'll be nice to see another country take a stab at it.
What are your thoughts on, expenses in space? India's space program is known for being frugal. For example, you're talking about Mangalyaan, the mission to Mars. That entire mission, sending an orbiter of Mars, cost India less than what it costs Hollywood to get a mainstream production up and running, which is remarkable. But as you expand your ambitions, there are no two ways about the fact that space costs. It costs phenomenally. So how does one balance, frugal engineering and the roadblock, which is that ultimately you're going to have to spend a lot more?
I think that's something that the space program in general, not just in India or not just in the US, is trying to tackle with things like these collaborations with commercial companies like Axiom. If you collaborate with commercial partners, a lot of times they can help bring the cost down. At the same time, we've seen some of the downsides of that with things like missions that are going through NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program that have not had a lot of luck landing on the moon. At the same time, this is the first time that they're trying to do it as well. So this is a lot of testing and trying to see what this is like. And they're really bringing the cost down from what it's been traditionally for government missions in places like the United States. But I think that we should be taking inspiration from places like India and saying, well, if you can build your first successful Mars mission for $33 million US, what is it that lets you do that type of innovation at those price points, and what are we doing that maybe we don't need to be doing in countries that have these giant price points? I remember somebody pointing out one time that the Opportunity rover, for example, lasted on Mars for 15 years, and the original price point for that and its twin rover Spirit was around $700 million US at the time that it launched. But that mission was only supposed to last for 90 days, 90 Martian days. And so are we over-engineering these missions to last a lot longer than they need to? Because we could be launching new missions instead of using old technology for 15 years. It's a great story to hear that these missions last for a long time, but maybe it's not necessarily the best scientific or technological answer at the end of the day. So I think there's a lot of factors to weigh there in terms of like the cost benefit of these over-engineered or potentially over-engineered missions that last a really long time versus what are things that we're doing just because we are so risk averse in a lot of cases that maybe we've gone too far in the other direction. And so it's added a lot of cost, complexity, time for testing. Is some of that able to be cut out without necessarily making it the missions to be completed at the end of the day?
Now, what we are seeing today is a collaboration between NASA and ISRO. And very soon, in the next few weeks, we will see the first big satellite being made, which has already been made to be launched from India, the NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar Satellite. And I point out to my audience and to you that the NISAR satellite is the world's single most expensive civilian Earth imaging satellite ever made. Cost upward of $1.2 billion. So while India explores space, it is not forgetting doing its duty for Earth.
Yeah, NISAR is going to be groundbreaking. I think people don't think about radar very much because it's not something that brings back pretty pictures that people are used to seeing from Earth imaging satellites, but it can tell us so much about things like natural disasters, about weather. So it's going to be a game changer when that comes online.
All right, Dr. Tanya Harrison, wonderful speaking to you, and thank you so much for being with us, sharing your thoughts on ISRO, the International Space Station, crewed flights, and the future of the Indian space program. Thank you very much indeed. Well, just a little while back, we spoke to the Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, Dr. Jitendra Singh. He monitors space. That's one of his jobs. Let's just take a look.
We are being joined by Union Minister Mr. Jitendra Singh. Let's go straight to him, sir. A big moment for India. Axiom-4 has just docked in the International Space Station, and we are seeing that Shubhanshu Shukla is in fact also playing a very important role in the part of the docking process.
Yeah, certainly. I think it's something to be celebrated by the entire nation. And as Prime Minister Modi had tweeted this morning that this is going to be a very proud moment for all of us, because for the first time an Indian is going to step into the International Space Station. And not only that, he's going to be one of the pioneer participants among those who are there. And referring to the docking which just now happened, of course, I think not only that, they were supposed to be there by 4:43. They reached about 30 minutes earlier. And I was saying in the lighter vein that had it been one of the domestic airlines, as the popular jargon is being used these days, one of the crew would have announced, happy to announce before time arrival. So Subhashu and the other three have in fact made up before time arrival at that docking point. They are now at the threshold entrance. Very soon they will be actually stepping into, and then maybe after 2 hours or so, a formal welcome ceremony by the other 7 colleagues who already happen to be there, 2 of them from Russia, 2 from the United States.
So earlier you had mentioned that we are dealing with this in a very futuristic approach. We are using all the scientific methods that has been available. All the equipments provided to Shubhanshu Shukla was developed from all across the nation, and then it was provided to him. We're also seeing that India is pushing forward the Gaganyaan mission. How do you think this whole experience from Shubhanshu Shukla is going to help in that mission?
No, I think this expedition itself demonstrates our living up to the envisaged goals in more than one ways. For example, when we talk of the experiments, all the experiments, they have been indigenously planned. They have been developed by indigenous institutes. The kits are also, the material also indigenous, so we are living up to the mantra of Atmanirbhar Bharat. That's A. B, we are going to share these important findings and inputs with the rest of the world, which were not available to them till now. which means now we are going to be Vishwabandhu Bharat also.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
Rajnath Singh, who addressed the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Defense Ministers meeting in China, refuses to sign a document which dilutes India's stand on terrorism. There is no mention of Pahalgam. India doesn't sign it. A big breakthrough in the Air India crash probe. Data has been downloaded from the recovered black boxes. It's been downloaded here in India, and analysis of the data is underway. After a controversial message on the social media site X, where Indira Gandhi was equated to Hitler, there is a huge controversy, an FIR against a Karnataka BJP Twitter handle. And a huge row explodes with the Diljit Park actor movie row, controversy there.
गोल्ड प्लस ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रिफ्लेक्टिव ग्लास लगाओ, धूप की गर्मी को दूर भगाओ और बिजली का बिल भी बचाओ।
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years. I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India, it matters to India, it matters to India, and it matters to me, and it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7. In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
सज गया है मंच, शिरकत करेंगे जाने माने कलाकार। एनडीटीवी का क्रिएटर्स मंच है आपके लिए तैयार। शामिल होंगे लेजेंडरी राइटर जावेद अख्तर, अपनी कविताओं से युवाओं के दिलों पर राज करने वाले कवि कुमार विश्वास, समय से परे की फिल्म बनाने वाले डायरेक्टर इम्तियाज अली और बेस्ट सेलिंग राइटर चेतन भगत। यहाँ फन और एंटरटेनमेंट मिलेगा, साहित्य से नई रचनाएं, नई सोच, नया मंच। NDTV लाया है आपके लिए क्रिएटर्स मंच। आप भी जुड़ें NDTV नेटवर्क पर।
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have 2 credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong,
right,
and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Junkie brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
भावनाओं को अभिव्यक्त करता हुआ कवि, एक पेंटिंग बनाता हुआ चित्रकार, सुरीले राग गाता हुआ एक गायक और फिल्म के रूप में दुनिया की हकीकत दिखाता हुआ एक फिल्मकार। सब चाहते हैं कि उन्हें एक मंच मिले जहां से उनकी उड़ान को दुनिया पहचान सके। NDTV क्रिएटर्स मंच एक ऐसा ही मंच है। आइए इस मचान पर स्वागत है, एक वक्त बिताएंगे NDTV क्रिएटर्स मंच पर।
That's huge. That is a biggie. It's out there.
गोल्ड ग्लास, क्लियर ग्लास, पार हो या नियर, सब कुछ दिखे क्लियर।
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has said that US President Donald Trump attacked Iran because he needed to do showmanship and warned America against any further attacks on his country as he made his first public comments after the ceasefire between Iran and Israel. Speaking in a video broadcast on Iranian state television, his first appearance since the 19th of June, Khamenei said any attack on Iran would come at a great cost.
Iran achieved against the U.S. regime. So the American regime entered a direct war against Iran because it felt if it didn't do so, the Zionist regime would totally get annihilated. So they entered the war in order to salvage the Zionist regime. But they achieved nothing out of that war.
Well, it's time now for us to take a short break. There's more coming up.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
तू ही तो है जिसकी सच्चाई वाली क्लैरिटी की वजह से
मैं आज यहाँ हूँ।
गोल्ड प्लस सिल्वॉक्सी मिरर्स, ऐसी क्लैरिटी कि आपको सिर्फ सच नजर आए, चाहे कितने भी साल बीत जाएं।
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
There have been 4 alerts which have been sounded off here. In fact, what we can confirm is that one missile did hit a residential building in Beersheba. As I speak, you can hear the air raid sirens going in. So I will have to make my way and see if we can find us a safe place. This is the announcement being made. Listen into it. We are coming to you live from this location which was hit in Beersheba, a residential high-rise. Ruins of this building tell you the cost that this war, the 12-day war so far, has taken.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India.
A 34-year-old woman from Uttar Pradesh drove her car on a railway track in Telangana's Rangareddy district, sparking panic among the staff and causing train services to either get suspended or diverted. The incident, a video of which has gone viral, took place near Shankarpalli. A 13-second clip showed the four-wheeler, a Kia Sonet, being driven along the railway track. She was eventually pulled out of that. A bizarre situation indeed.
A bizarre incident this morning around 7 a.m. at Shankarapalli near Hyderabad. A Kia Sonet car came onto the railway track and drove about 6 to 7 kilometers. Even though people were trying to stop it, it would not stop. Subsequently, it was found out that there was a 34-year-old woman from Uttar Pradesh inside the car. She refused to even get off the car, but she had to be forced outside. She came out with a martial arts weapon, a nanchuk in her hand, and 15 to 20 people had to get together to try and stop her. The police were worried that this should not result in an accident, the car being on the railway track, a busy railway track that connects Hyderabad to Bengaluru, and therefore 10 to 15 passenger trains had to be diverted in order to avoid any kind of an unnecessary collision. What we also understand from interrogation subsequently, even though she was said to be aggressive, non-cooperative and very, very angry as well, is that she is someone who possibly lost a job recently with an MNC. She is also a single woman, a divorcee, and she had also said that she had a disturbed childhood. The clue that the police have got is that on her bag was written murder or suicide, and the police are guessing that she may have wanted to commit suicide and make it appear like a murder, but then she could have walked on the track by herself. Why did she bring her car along, and why was she driving on her in her car on the railway track is something that is still unanswered.
Diljit Dosanjh is in the midst of a huge controversy over the casting of the Pakistani actress Hania Amir, who plays a key role opposite Diljit. The decision has triggered a wave of backlash, especially given the ongoing political tensions between India and Pakistan. The popular singer Guru Randhawa has now thrown a curveball into the ongoing narrative by posting a cryptic message on X, hinting that the controversy might be a calculated PR move rather than genuine public outrage.
Guru Randhawa is now implying that this entire controversy, this big fight, is actually, it just could be a PR stunt.
बिल्कुल गार्गी, I think देखो अगर वो समझदार होते तो he could have deleted that post. The post is already there, which he posted about that movie. वो वहीं पे है. अगर उनको थोड़ा सा भी गिल्टी फील होता है या थोड़ा सा भी उनको लगता है कि यार मुझे सॉरी बोलना चाहिए, तो वो सिंपली आके सॉरी बोल दें. और हम सभी लोग प्यार करते हैं. He is a great artist. We all respect him. We all love his music. But this time हमारे लिए देश पहले है. और अगर उनसे कोई गलती हो जाती है तो आके सॉरी बोल दें और अपना पोस्ट डिलीट कर दें. पर वो सीधा बोलने के नहीं जी, मैं तो ये पोस्ट भी डिलीट नहीं करूँगा और इसके मैं अगेंस्ट ही काम करूँगा. और वो खुद ही आगे आते जा रहे हैं बार बार. I think he could have called his producer. I don't know who is the producer, where are the heroines. They can talk about this. Only he is coming in front and talking about this movie.
बट मीका जी, गुरु रंधावा जिन्होंने एक पोस्ट डाला है, उन्होंने हिंट किया है कि शायद ये पूरी कंट्रोवर्सी एक पीआर स्टंट है. ये जो बॉयकॉट की बात जो चल रही है, शायद ये पीआर स्टंट है. एंड उन्होंने कहा कि व्हेन पीआर टीम इज मोर टैलेंटेड देन द टैलेंट इटसेल्फ.
100% he is right. I totally agree with Guru. Because देखो आपको गार्गी, आपने हैव यू हर्ड अबाउट सरदार जी फर्स्ट? नहीं ना. आपने सुनी सरदार जी 1 कौन सी थी, 2 कौन सी थी? अब सडनली 3 के बारे में ही बात हो रही. पहली 2 का तो पता नहीं चला. तीसरी का अगर वो समझदार होते तो वो पहले ही आके बोलते, यार मैं 4 महीने पहले बोलते कि मैं मूवी मेरी जो बन चुकी है मैं रिलीज करना चाहता हूँ, मेरा बहुत सारा उसमें खर्चा पैसा लग गया है. बट उन्होंने सीधा उसका पोस्ट डाला. तो पता है कि इसका रिजल्ट यही आएगा. वो सीधा आके उन्होंने पोस्ट कर दिया.
सबसे पहले तो आपने क्रिटिसाइज किया, आपने वो पोस्ट किया इंस्टाग्राम पे, और आपसे ही मतलब ये पूरी कंट्रोवर्सी इनफैक्ट आगे बढ़ी है आपके पोस्ट से.
जी जी जी. देखो मैं अगेन दिलजीत के अगेंस्ट नहीं हूँ. अच्छा लड़का है, अच्छा गाता है. बट मुझे लगता है जब हमारा देश एक तरफ हो चुका है तो हमें पहले अपने देश की बात करनी चाहिए. जब हमारे रिश्ते अच्छे होंगे पाकिस्तान के साथ, डेफिनेटली हम उनके साथ काम करेंगे या उनका म्यूज़िक हम मूवी में डालेंगे. बट अभी हमारे रिश्ते ख़राब हैं तो हमें उन सभी सोल्जर्स की, उन जवानों की रिस्पेक्ट करनी चाहिए जो बेचारे बॉर्डर पे बैठे हैं. तो अगर हमारा ऐसे ही म्यूज़िक चल के यहाँ से वहाँ चलता है तो फिर बॉर्डर पे बेचारे जो मेहनत कर रहे हैं उनको छोड़ ही दो.
आप खुद कंट्रोवर्सी में रहे पास्ट में. आप भी मतलब जब इंडिया पाकिस्तान टेंशन बहुत हाई था, आप गए थे पाकिस्तान, आपने वहाँ परफॉर्म किया और आपके अगेंस्ट भी काफ़ी बैकलैश हुआ था उस समय.
बहुत ज़्यादा हुआ. आई थिंक मुझे हर जगह से बैन कर दिया गया. और मुझे खुद नहीं समझ आ रही थी, बिकॉज जब मैं वहाँ पे शो करने गया था, मैं तो एक मैरिज पे, वेडिंग पे मैंने परफॉर्म करा, मैंने उसको प्रमोट भी नहीं करा, और मैं वाया वीज़ा लेके गया हूँ, पासपोर्ट के बिना पाकिस्तान एंटर नहीं कर सकते। बट मुझे रियलाइज़ हुआ ठीक है यार, अगर ऑडियंस मेरे अगेंस्ट जा रही है, मुझे नहीं पसंद कर रही, तो मैं ये बात भी 2018 या 19 की है, तो मैं स्पेशली मुंबई में आके मैंने एसोसिएशन से लाइव होके मैंने सॉरी मांगा था। अगर आपको याद होगा, मेरे फुटेज वहाँ पे होंगे। तो अगर ठीक है गलती होती है, ये वो गलती नहीं है जो मेरे से गलती होगी, ये गलती वो है जो जानबूझ के करी जा रही है कि ठीक है यार, दिस इज द इजीएस्ट वे टू प्रमोट योर मूवी। अच्छा पब्लिसिटी नहीं रही।
अच्छा, आपने पहले भी बोला है कि दिलजीत दोसांझ मस्ट अपोलोजाइज, एंड आपने ऑल्सो कहा है कि कुछ ऑब्जेक्शनेबल सीन्स हैं इस फिल्म में, वो हटा देने चाहिए।
बिल्कुल, आप देखिए अभी सितारे ज़मीन पे मूवी आई है आमिर खान साहब की, जिसके अंदर काफ़ी चीज़ें उन्होंने एडिट करी हैं, बिकॉज शायद उनको वो उन्होंने काफ़ी कुछ एडिट करा कि ठीक है, अगर वो चीज़ें नहीं पसंद आती तो उन्होंने हटा दी काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें। अगर सुपरस्टार आमिर खान अपनी इतनी महंगी बड़ी फिल्म से बहुत सारे शॉट्स हटा सकता है, तो इनकी तो मूवी इतनी कोई बड़ी तो मूवी है नहीं, कि नॉर्मल मूवी है जैसे पंजाबी मूवी होती है, बहुत सारा ऐसा कोई खर्चा भी नहीं हुआ। तो ये छोटी सी चीज़ तो देश के लिए तो कर सकते हैं यार। और आज मुझे कोई 5 करोड़ 10 करोड़ ऑफर करता, आज भी पाकिस्तान में परफॉर्म करो, मुझे भी पैसा पसंद है, पर लेकिन मेरे लिए देश पहले। मैंने एक गलती करी थी 2019 में, उसके बाद आज ये 2025 चल रहा है, मैंने कभी किसी पाकिस्तान सिंगर या कभी प्रमोटर के साथ काम नहीं करा पाकिस्तान में जाके, बिकॉज मेरे लिए देश पहले। इनके लिए भी पहले देश होना चाहिए। जो भी इनकी हीरोइन है पाकिस्तान की, वो तो अपने पाकिस्तान को प्यार करती है और उसके लिए वो सपोर्ट भी करती है। तो वो दिलजीत भाई तुसी भी इंडियन हो, आप अपना इंडिया को सपोर्ट करो यार। आप तो डिलीट भी नहीं कर रहे पोस्ट, आप सॉरी भी नहीं बोल रहे, आप बोलो ठीक है मैं ये मूवी ना ओवरसीज रिलीज करूँगा, मुझे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता। उसका मतलब तो यही है।
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
गोल्ड प्लस ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रिफ्लेक्टिव ग्लास लगाओ, धूप की गर्मी को दूर भगाओ और बिजली का बिल भी बचाओ।
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora, we cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I
or
hold
buy
CDSL for the long term? Buy, sell or hold?
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
सज गया है मंच, शिरकत करेंगे जाने माने कलाकार। एनडीटीवी का क्रिएटर्स मंच है आपके लिए तैयार। शामिल होंगे लेजेंडरी राइटर जावेद अख्तर, अपनी कविताओं से युवाओं के दिलों पर राज करने वाले कवि कुमार विश्वास, समय से परे की फिल्म बनाने वाले डायरेक्टर इम्तियाज अली और बेस्ट सेलिंग राइटर चेतन भगत। यहाँ फन और एंटरटेनमेंट मिलेगा, साहित्य से नई रचनाएं, नई सोच, नया मंच। एनडीटीवी लाया है आपके लिए क्रिएटर्स मंच, आप भी जुड़ें NDTV नेटवर्क पर।
In the last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Junkie brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
भावनाओं को अभिव्यक्त करता हुआ कवि, एक पेंटिंग बनाता हुआ चित्रकार, सुरीले राग गाता हुआ एक गायक और फिल्म के रूप में दुनिया की हकीकत दिखाता हुआ एक फिल्मकार। सब चाहते हैं कि उन्हें एक मंच मिले जहां से उनकी उड़ान को दुनिया पहचान सके। NDTV क्रिएटर्स मंच एक ऐसा ही मंच है। आइए इस मचान पर स्वागत है, एक वक्त बिताएंगे NDTV क्रिएटर्स मंच पर।
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India, it matters to India, and it matters to me, and it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20
Hello and welcome to the Southern View. All eyes now on space and Axiom-4's docking there at the International Space Station. That and lots more lined up over the next hour with Vasudha and me, Veera Raghav. Namaskaram, namaskara Vasudha. Hegi Veera, nalla irkingla?
Vanakkam Veera and namaskar to all our viewers from New Delhi. We get you all the news from around the country and the world. On this show, special focus this evening on the Axiom-4 docking in space, which has happened. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, making all of us proud, has walked into the International Space Station. And, of course, in the political face-off we have over the emergency, all that and more. But first up, the headlines. A big breakthrough in the Air India crash probe. Data has been downloaded from the recovered black boxes. Analysis of this data is underway now.
After 9 days in the darkness, Iranian supreme leader emerges to attack the United States. Khamenei roars a big slap to the United States.
Diljit Dosanjh movie love explodes now after Meka Guru Randhawa hits out at Diljit Dosanjh. Randhawa says, "Remember, you were born in India."
Well, first up to that big event in space, especially for India. After a long 24-hour journey with Amras and Moong Dal Ka Halwa, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla became the first Indian to go to the International Space Station managed by SpaceX. The 4-mission Crew Dragon docket at the ISS, making an important moment in its journey there, Vasudha.
That's right, Veera. A momentous occasion for all Indians and all space enthusiasts across the world, as Shubhanshu Shukla, or Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, is the only second Indian to go to space after Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma went to space aboard a Soviet spacecraft in 1984. The 4-person crew, including Mission Commander Peggy Whitson of United States of America and mission specialists from Poland and Hungary, will stay at SpaceX's International Space Station for the next 2 weeks.
That's right, Vasudha. We'll wait for some special guests to join us in just a bit, but you can see those pictures of the greetings and those fascinating moments in space. Obviously, all Indian space enthusiasts and as well as space enthusiasts around the world watching it very closely, live and continuing coverage here on NDTV on that big moment in space. Fascinating images there that have been beamed out of there. Remember, 41 years ago, and last evening, Vasudha, I was chatting with a few astronauts and astrophysicists who were there on the show, and I was asking them what was the difference between 41 years ago when they saw Rakesh Sharma become the first Indian to enter space, and now. They said that the big difference is black and white TV and color TV, internet, and waiting for the newspapers to get the information then. So much has changed in terms of times, both in Earth and perhaps in space, Vasudha.
Absolutely, Veera. In fact, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla says that he was not even born when Rakesh Sharma, or Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma, went to space. And clearly he says that he's relearning to live and eat and sleep like a baby, because, he has to spend, he spent almost over 30 hours on that Crew Dragon. And of course, now he has to spend 2 weeks at the International Space Station. A big responsibility on all of these astronauts and specialists. But yes, all our wishes are with them. We do have some special guests with us today. Dr. B.R. Guru Prasad, who's the director of Jawaharlal Nehru Planetarium in Bengaluru. We also have other guests who will be joining us in just a bit. We also have Dr. Venkateshwara Sharma, who's a former deputy director of DRDO. Dr. Guru Prasad, help us understand, how is this such a big milestone for India's space journey? How would you look at these visuals? How would you describe them for us? How challenging is it going to be for these people for the next few days?
Namaskar. Good evening. And I don't know how to describe it. Even I am so, touched by these kind of visuals. Look at the way in which these rookies, these three people, Shubhanshu Shukla, Slawosz and Tibor Kapu, all the three, how they are floating, how they are enjoying their weightless environment, in fact. The ambience is so touching, really, and the way in which they are enjoying weightlessness, really, it's a matter of... I don't know. The thing is, let us say it's a matter of special celebration for India, because, I was watching in the afternoon the words of Shubhanshu Shukla, and he was so emotional, and the way in which he was expressing his feelings, it was really touching, and his colleagues were so much supportive, I saw. And he was telling, emotionally speaking, he said that Tiranga was on my patch there on my shoulder, and I am not the one who has come to space. I am representing, I have brought 140 crore people, all the Indians. It was so touching. And as Virrago was mentioning, yes, Rakesh Sharma's flight was black and white TV era. That's what yesterday I was telling, that on April 3rd, 1984, I watched it on a black and white TV in one of my friend's house. Okay. And, from Doordarshan, we had the visual, and it was compared to International Space Station and Crew Dragon. Soyuz spacecraft is a little smaller one, quite a bit smaller one. And compared to that, look at the kind of facilities, the kind of special ambience you have in the International Space Station. And it is very nice.
As you're speaking,
for Indians, it's a matter of pride.
As you're speaking, sir, we are sending out live pictures that have been coming in to us from that space station, not live, just a little while ago when they all entered that International Space Station. Dr. Venkateshwar Sharma, what would be the key challenges? Perhaps the next big television moment would be the re-entry time, but over the next 2 weeks, what would be the key challenges out there both for the astronauts as well as for the crew on the ground here?
Namaskar, good evening, namaskaram. How are you all? And really very, very happy moment for all of us. And as a rocket scientist, space scientist, and having worked in this Gaganyaan for time immemorial myself, I feel it is a great achievement in two aspects. One is that the amount of technical knowledge, amount of scientific knowledge, amount of experience that we have got right from training him from 2019 till putting him into ISS is something which we have to take it in a way that is useful for us in our Gaganyaan and the human space programs, which, there is always a purpose with which we do anything and everything. And that is one big, achievement. And the learning that has happened over this, ISS program, Astronaut getting into ISS is something which I, as a scientist, as a technocrat, as an engineer, I think it is a very big learning. This is one part. Second part is that, of course, the blessings and the best wishes of 140 crore people who kept confidence in ISRO, encouraging in every step, even